Why have I got a
in the
go live
chat.
next to it? I've
Click
got a
that.
stop streaming and a go live.
Click the go live.
Here's what's interesting. You know the images down the bottom of the screen? We've got the blue, like, live symbol. It says 2 minutes. It's counting up, but I haven't got a red... I'm guessing that's the red record button next to it, but I'm not. That must be for recording. So is it the blue dot?
Just click the
blue
blue
symbol
go
button?
live. Yeah. Well,
I've
wait,
clicked
I
go
don't
live
know.
and it says end broadcast or stop streaming. I've got like 2 different ones.
Oh shit.
Good evening, Sector 1 Sim Racing fans from Australia, New Zealand, and around the world. Our apologies for our delay in your entertainment this evening. We've had some hiccups here in the streaming area, but it looks like we're all sorted now. I've got good responses from the chat there just down below, so we should be all good to go. Welcome to Season 8 of Sector 1 Sim Racing. Hopefully that's the last of the hiccups for this evening, and apparently they can't hear me. I've got people saying they can't hear me. Am I too quiet? What's going on over there? Please give us your feedback in the chat. Let us know what's going on over there. You should have us just about right now. Let us know what's going on in there. Feedback is much appreciated. I'll keep talking just to make sure that you guys are hearing what you are hearing. And we'll move into our driver list here. So here is our Division 3 for the evening. And that's good news. I've got... you've just had a mad echo. But do we still have the echo now, or are we all good to go? Can you hear the comms? I haven't got Snake Eyes here. Snake Eyes, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Cool. All right. Test, test. Can you guys hear Snake Eyes as well? Our new race director in the booth with me this evening. Sounds like we are all good to go. A couple of teething issues there on the way through, but we are all good to go. Round 1 struggles indeed it is, but we are up and running by the sounds of things. So if you could please direct your attention to the Division 3 driver list there on the Season 8 divisions list here in Sector 1 Sim Racing. I'm hearing a slight echo still. We will check that out if we get a moment later on, but it sounds like we are good enough for now. So we'll get going in any case. So our Division 3 at the moment, bear in mind, there are a couple of errors on this list because of last minute changes to the roster, but we'll get cracking on this anyway. Black Project RX7 and Boybagum Budsy Carbon Boy returning, and he was our big time race director last season. Daz 930T and Graham, who was also in the race director box last season as well, and should be making a return this season. If you're looking forward to his succulent tones, he will be back. Killer on the Loose, Levenspiel Peruski, a stalwart of Sector 1 here for Obsession Motorsport, now APR Motorsport, which we will get into soon enough. Revs Law, someone we will need to talk about a fair bit. He was the champion of Division 4 last season and thus earned himself a promotion to Division 3. So it'll be very interesting to see how he goes this season. Shizer is one of the changes to the season. So Shizer is no longer competing, had some life complications come up and had to withdraw. They've been replaced by Wartime 666, who was then relegated to Division 4. So will not be taking part in Division 3, and VF, second from the bottom on the Division 4 column. He's been promoted to Division 3 as he was the next in line in Division 4 and ran a very strong season last season and thus earned himself a promotion. Squirrel, TG Beaver, and The Stranger make up the remainder of Division 3, and by all accounts, we have a full grid tonight, which is great news. Snake Eyes, what have you seen from these guys in practice and your test starts?
Yeah, look, I'm seeing some really good times. I think it's going to be very close. Personally, I think probably Beaver is going to be right up there.
Okay, Beaver, a strong competitor. So he was around last season, but not for too many races. Is that right?
Yeah, as far as I understand, he was only here for a couple of races.
Right, very good. So let's have a look now at our calendar for the season. So starting off with round number 1 here at Autodromo Lago Maggiore in Italy. Now, this track is Kazunori Yamauchi, or the director of Gran Turismo's idea of the ultimate Grand Prix circuit. If Formula One could have a perfect racetrack, according to Kazunori Yamauchi, this would be it. So that's going to provide some excellent racing, very likely, here this evening and next week as well. If you are new to Sector 1, we do run every Sunday evening and 2 of our 4 divisions every week. So we will run this week at Maggiore and next week at Maggiore as well for Group B. And then we will move on to round 2 at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And then round 3, Dragon Trail Seaside. That is a sprint round, so 2 back-to-back sprint races. Make for very exciting racing, and I'm excited for that one. Round 4 at Autodromo de Interlagos in Brazil, another Grand Prix circuit, but a real life one this time. Very, very excited for that one. Round 5 at Circuit de Saint-Croix in France. Now that's another one of the fictional circuits, and a very long circuit as well, about 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes for a lap. To get around there, when generally most tracks are about 1.5 minutes. So a very, very long circuit really challenges the driver, and the Deeds stomping ground as well. They'll be looking to make their mark at that round. Round 6, Autopolis Racing Course, a Super GT circuit based in Japan. Now, that's a real-life circuit, and it matches up quite nicely to the Honda NSX 2008 that we're driving here, a traditional circuit for a traditional car. Round 7 in Japan, also at Kyoto Driving Park Yamagiwa. So that's just the western half of the circuit. I believe it's the western half in Japan. That's another fictional circuit, but a really, really interesting circuit for this car. The car feels super good around there. I've given it a crack myself, and it feels really, really nice. So that should make for some awesome racing. And then the final round, the grand finale of the season at Circuit de la Sarthe, or Le Mans, and the endurance rounds, which is only fitting given the very, very famous event that occurs at that particular track every year without fail. We'll move now into a quick feature of one of our teams. So this is the newly renamed APR Motorsport, named for APR Automotive, the business in Tasmania, owned by our very own Pruski. Now, a little bit about APR Automotive. They are based in Tasmania, and they have their feet in the motorsport world and just the general automotive world as well. So whether you're looking for the basic services and repairs for your vehicle in Tasmania, or you're looking to build a stonking race car, they've got the guys for you there. So definitely something that you may want to check out if you're based in the area. But in Sector 1, as APR Motorsport, one of Sector 1's founding teams, they were previously named Obsession Motorsport, but they've now been renamed to APR Motorsport to reflect the sponsorship. Their 8th season entered as a team, and given it is Sector 1 Season 8, that only tracks as one of the founding teams. Formerly Obsession Motorsport, there it is. I've already said it, but it's there on the screen for you as well. Team's taken on a new identity just for Season 8. The highest position of 5th in the team's championship in their history, and they do have one drivers championship to their name as well. Now, down in the boxes at the bottom, you look at Division 3 on the right hand side, and Cat 2, you've got Carbon Boy and Prua both competing in the first race of the evening, which we will get to very, very shortly. And I'm very excited for this one as well. So keep an eye out for them, the APR Motorsport representatives in that particular race. We'll move now over to our track for the evening. So this is Autodromo Lago Maggiore, the full GP circuit, and 17 corners for our drivers to deal with, and a lot of very, very tricky ones. Do you want to give us an idea, Snake Eyes, of what you've kind of learned with this track over your time practicing it in preparation for your race next weekend?
Yeah, look, it's a very interesting track. It's got some really tricky corners. The wind changes, I think, are going to catch maybe a few people out if they haven't done a lot of practice. The wind with the GR2 Honda NSX is quite tricky in different spots, especially when it swings from one direction to the other. You might find yourself really good in, say, Sector 1 and Sector 3, and then the wind will change, and, you know, those sectors, then you'll start to lose a bit of speed, but you might pick it up in the other sectors.
Yeah, tricky circuit, and like you say, some sweeping corners where the downforce is exceptionally important. So the wind, the hot tip, we've got 2 hot tips for this evening from Snake Eyes. That's Beaver to be very competitive up the front, and the wind to be a crucial factor here at Maggiore for these cars. Racing soft tyres only for the cars this time around. There will be changes to that as we go through the season, but just the one compound for our guys. this evening. 3 times tyres and 3 times fuel is what the multiplier has been cranked up to, just to make sure that our drivers have a little something to contend with as the race carries on. And on that topic, we do have a strategy guide for you as well, a new feature of the Sector 1 broadcast. So 26 laps there on the top graphic there, and you can see there's 2 options for the strategy here this evening, the 1 stop and the 2 stop. We're looking at 9 laps and 8 laps, 9 laps, 9 laps. If you do a 2 stop, that's 3 stints of 8, 9 and 9, or you can run 13 and 13 if you can take the tyres to halfway, but that might prove a little bit of a stretch for some of our drivers, because we can expect those tyres to start really hurting around the 11th or 12th lap. And the question is, do you want to push them that little bit further to the 13th lap, or do you want to cut your losses early and go for that extra stop and go 8, 9, 9 or 9, 8, 9 or whatever you want to do? That's your options for the strategy, so we'll keep an eye out for those pit windows as the race carries on. Now, Snake Eyes, I'm sure with all the delays that we've had this evening, our guys are raring to go. What do you say we get them underway?
Yeah, man, I reckon we kick it in the guts and get this thing underway.
That's the one. Let's get it going. Qualifying 10 minutes of for our drivers here at Lago Maggiore. And it should be very interesting to see who comes out on top of this qualifying session. Really going to set the tone for the entirety of the season and give us an idea of who's put the time in the lead up to race number 1. So we'll kick into 10 minutes of qualifying very, very shortly. How are we looking there, Snake Eyes? Are we ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, everyone's in, everyone's set. I'm just trying to find the button. Did they change the colour of it again this season?
Carbon Boy's been up to his tricks in here, getting the paint bucket out.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. It's camouflage, the same colour as the desk. Okay, let's get this thing going, I think.
Very, very good. Our guys will be ready to rock and roll. Division 3 qualifying here for our drivers. Should be time to go. Just about ready to rock and roll for these guys. And the session has begun. So we'll take you guys over to the official broadcast screen for this very, very shortly. 10 minutes for our drivers here in the qualifying session. And your first look on track. And check it out, the new sponsorship graphics on the timing tower on the left-hand side as well. Liquid Solutions has come to the party for Sector 1 this season, and we could not be happier to have them. So here we go. Qualifying for round 1 here in the Sector 1 Season 8. The drivers are out on track, heading around.
Looks like there's a little bit of a few spins and that already to start with. Guys won't be happy about that. Hopefully they sort themselves out.
As long as they clear their damage before they get around, they should have no problems. I'm seeing a couple of guys weaving about, just trying to warm up the tyres. There is a little bit of an issue with that. You do have to get them nice and warm in time for your qualifying lap. Now, what do you think, Snake Eyes? Do you think we'll see guys coming into the pits to put on a fresh set of boots halfway through the session? Or are we probably going to run all the way from start to finish on one set?
I reckon there'll be a few guys, maybe after lap 3, that might come in and try their luck. Depends. If they've had a bit of a spin or something and they think their tyres are a bit worn or a bit marked, they might come in and try a fresh set.
So something to look out for this season, a new feature on our liveries. You see the race number there on R. Rice Revs. That's Revs Law from last season. Had a bit of an update to the username for Kung Fu Racing. He has switched teams this season, by the way. He's gone from Home Corp Esports to Kung Fu Racing Team. So let's see. They're the new kids on the block, just by the way, Kung Fu Racing Team. We haven't chatted about them yet, but we will surely have something to speak about when it comes to them very, very soon. But you have a look at the race number on Robert Rice Revs car. That is a bit of a tongue twister, mate. What are we gonna? We're gonna have to just call them Revs, I think. Just drop it to the one syllable. But you see a purple race number there. That is the sign of a division champion from yester season. So the purple number indicating a season champion on Revs' car. Keep an eye out for that as we go further forward in the season. Drivers come on to their first flying lap. So this is going to be benchmark stuff for our drivers going into the first round here. So we'll jump on board with Revs, our season winner last season in Division 4. Through turn number 3, and into turn number 4. Now this section, very, very tricky, and you can get very loose out of this corner here with a little bit of an unsettling camber on the way out, bit of a crest. You come over there and the car can get a little bit loose. Now this corner as well, very, very tricky to get right on the brakes and turning at the same time. You come in for a late apex and plant your foot up this hill. The power application here is crucial, and then you come to the S's as well. Now this is one of the parts where the wind, as Snake Eyes was saying before, becomes very important. You can see there you've got a northerly breeze of 2.4 meters per second. Not particularly strong, but strong enough to certainly affect the balance of the car, but not a bad wind direction in the grand scheme of things, as when you come into those S's you have a headwind, and if you don't know, the headwind is actually slightly more valuable. It's more valuable in corners, and then you want a tailwind on the straight, because the headwind into corners increases your downforce, or increases the work that your aero on your car will do to increase your downforce, and therefore you have more grip. It also slows you down a bit onto the braking zone. You might find yourself scrubbing off an extra K or two, which may make it a bit easier to corner. As we come into the corners at the top part of the circuit, I believe that's corner capo, as named by the Sector 1 admin of the past. And into the final corner here, down the left-hander, blind exit. Very, very difficult to get right without a lot of muscle memory going into this one. Squirrel, Black Project sets the benchmark early. They're dropping quickly though. 47 flat for Beaver and just 3.5 tenths shy for Revs. So the benchmark has been set, and as you said, Snake Eyes, Beaver on top for now.
Yeah, this guy has got some really good pace. Obviously, I haven't seen everyone, and not everyone on track, but yeah, my tip for this would be Beaver, to be honest.
So I think you mentioned earlier, Beaver was a Division 2 driver last season and has been moved down to Division 3. And that would have been based on performances, presumably. Do you remember what sort of results he was garnering last season?
From memory, he only did a couple of races, but from my memory, which isn't the greatest at the best of times, I think he was pretty close to midfield.
Right, so midfield Division 2. So maybe a drop result based on points for last season, or he was a bit of a late entry, I think, or just was he an entrant from the beginning of the season, or did he enter midway?
No, I think he entered midway.
Right, so maybe settling him into Division 3, give him a chance to find his feet again. He may have felt a little bit out of sync in Division 2, but making his mark nice and early here. And interestingly, Kung Fu 1 and 2, the new team on the block, come out swinging in the first qualifying session of the season here. And the champion of Division 4, and TG Beaver out the front with the fastest lap time on the board at the moment. We've got Dadson out there. Sorry, not Dadson. I think that's Gur of Dadson Racing. I thought it was Dadson, but it's just Dadson Racing team. Graham or Gur for that particular team coming across to set a second time. Beaver will come into the pits for some tyres. Graham goes up and then drops back down to 4th as he's unseated by Squirrel, who goes within 5 thousandths of a second of Revs behind him. Now Revs with a slight improvement as well. He chopped down that gap to Beaver by about 1.5 tenths there, but still a lot of time to find. Beaver now with a fresh set of boots, maybe with a slight advantage as well.
I was actually just going to comment before it dropped down a little bit that VF, who you were saying that was bumped up from Div 4, currently in 5th. He was running 3rd, but a really good performance from VF.
Yeah, good start to the qualifying session for sure, and definitely, pointing to the right direction for the decision to bump him up to Division 3. Up in the top half of the pack, and there's a crash in the background actually there. I think there might be the APR Motorsport car in the background that's gone off there at the exit of turn 4. Easy to do though, easy to get a snap of oversteer and overcorrect and put yourself straight into that wall, which is what I imagine just happened. Levensfield jumps up to P5 and he's rocking the very new and very colourful Red Mist Racing Trade Mutt livery there. Now that's a very interesting one to drop up there. So Trade Mutt, from my understanding, is they make workwear for tradies and that sort of thing. And a purple sector there actually for Levensfield as he heads through the first sequence of corners as well. So looking very, very strong here with only 3 tenths to find on the leader. He's now a 10th up. So Trade Mutt, they make workwear, but it is designed exactly the same way. You imagine a work shirt, a high-vis shirt, that looks exactly like what you see on the car right now. And the idea behind that is that it's supposed to start a conversation. You're supposed to get people going, hey, what's up with your shirt, mate? And then it starts a conversation, and I believe there's ties into mental health awareness in there as well, and that's sort of where they're going with that sort of thing, which I find to be a very interesting premise, and I really like what they've done with the car here, and I think it really suits the Honda's shape as well.
I actually think there's some really good liveries on here tonight. The guys have gone all out on the liveries, but yeah, that trademark really stands out, and it's really good that you know, RMR there behind this, you know, mental health and everything. It's a really good thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a good concept to back for sure. And here's the Black Rose entry as well. So they're not running a particularly new livery. It looks very, very similar to what they ran last season. There's a Kung Fu racing car off to the side, just taking a bit of a break. I think that was Revs. Actually, it might have been Beaver. I don't think he's set an improvement yet. He's still holding that 47 flat. Who will be the first to crack into the 46s here? That is the big question. A 47 flat, highly competitive. There's another quick time through the first sector for Squirrel. So clearly TG Beaver either not particularly strong through the first sector, or he's got time to find himself, which might prove difficult for the drivers around him. Levenspiel has popped up to P2 with a .179 here, and Budsy as well throwing his head into the mix. And Levenspiel quick through the first sector by 2.5 tenths. He is purple, looking very strong here, and definitely threatening that pole position. Let's jump on with Beaver, who's coming into the late stages of the lap, on board with him. Oh, he's 4.5 tenths purple. This is unbelievable from Beaver. He is absolutely stomping his authority on this race. It's reminiscent of Rev's Law last season in Division 4, absolutely decimating the guys behind. And yeah, definitely a very, very strong start here for Kung Fu Racing Team. And as well, there we go. We've had a quick unseatment by Boybegum by .019, but then 5.5 tenths purple on Boybegum is TG Beaver with a 46.4. That is a stonking time. I don't think anyone's going to have an answer for that.
No, I don't think so. That's a really cracking time. It's interesting though, as we see, if everyone's done their fifth lap, to me, I found that my fifth lap was probably my fastest generally. I think by the sixth lap, the tyres are pretty much starting to wear a little bit too much, unless someone has pulled into the pits and got a fresh set of tyres.
Well, these guys are all on their final lap now. The timer has just ticked over to 10 minutes or 0 seconds, depending on where you were looking. But final laps for these guys. So Beaver will set a final lap. Boybegum's still on a lap. Graham's still on a lap. Levenspiel has run and done his session, and that's the APR Motorsport car there as well. I think that's... we had a look at these before. Not Black Project, Carvin Boy, Stranger, Pruitt. It is Pruitt who's gone through already. Budsy with a 46 point. Oh, wow. Just a 10th off Beaver. Now that's a fantastic time to lay down nice and early.
It is. He's very consistent, Budsy too. I was actually going to say before, I think he's going to be a top contender if he doesn't have any mechanical issues. I reckon he'll be right up there at the pointy end at the end of this race as well.
Now that's a new livery as well on his car. I couldn't actually tell you, based on that, what team he represents. I think that's a completely fresh livery. And something
from
that we...
ISA.
It's
ISA
ISA. It is the ISA one. So ISA have gone from a white and blue to black and green. Very, very good. So there's the TP Motorsports entry of Boybegum, clocks P3. Dadson's entry with Graham, clocks P4. Levenspiel, P5. Black Project comes across the line he's further down. He's got a 147. VF, P8. So that's just about the mid-pack. So solidifying the decision to bump him up a division. Definitely the right decision there for our guys. Killer on the loose, P9. Black Project in a very striking livery. We haven't looked at this one yet either. Now that's the Kraken Esports entry. I recognise the sponsor on the side. Orange and black. Now that is a cool selection of colours. I like that one.
Yeah, I was just actually going through the times and stuff, and man, some of the times were so close. We're talking like a couple of thousandths of a second over the lap time. Probably the top 10 guys, there was hardly anything. Like the first couple of guys, they were up there. They were probably 4 tenths up, but once you started to go back through the field, there was next to nothing through like 6 or 7 guys.
Yeah, there's a big gap from Budsy down to Boybagum as we look at the results screen now. We've got Budsy there in P2 for 46.551, just 0.135 off Beaver. We thought it was such a dominant lap, but Budsy doing his best to prove us wrong, and then a big gap back to Boybagum there as well. He's just about a tenth and a half off Boybagum also, and then a very, very small gap back to Levenspiel for P5. So 4 and 5 there, very, very close together. And P6 as well, Revs, who dropped not dissimilarly to a stone there. He was up right at the top two for a long, long time, and he's now down in P6, and Squirrel there right on top of them as well. So you see there the gap, 0.7 and 0.798 there between P4 and P7. Very, very close gap there. VF in P8, just under a second off the pole time. Not a bad start to his campaign for sure. Killer on the loose there with a 47.397, and Black Project rounds out the top 10 with that Kraken Esports livery, which I'm a very, very big fan of now. Daz 930T in P11. I believe that's the Doghouse entry, if I'm not mistaken, and APR Motorsport entry of Carbon Boy, the Stranger, the second of the Doghouse liveries, and Prua, the last of the APR Motorsport, down in P14 for now. But if we know anything about Prua, he's exceptionally good on the defense, so all it's going to take is a bit of track position for him to find his way further up. But a great start to the campaign for Beaver and Kung Fu Racing Team, and Budsy very strong there for ISA in 2 as well. Their race could be very interesting as it goes on this evening.
Yeah, just once again having a bit of a look at those liveries myself. There's some fantastic looking liveries. One that stands out to me that and I'm normally not a purple person, but the Stranger, I really liking the look of that.
Got bright purple wheels on that one too, doesn't it?
Yeah, very bright. Just the whole livery itself seems to blend really nice, I think.
Good. There's some really awesome liveries on display, which I've been very impressed with. We'll pull back up on your screen now our strategy guide for this evening. Just to refresh your memory, we're looking at either a 1-stop or a 2-stop for these guys. 13 laps, or the 13th lap is your pit window for the 1-stop, and then about 8 or 9 laps is your pit window for the 2-stop. So we'll keep an eye out for both of those and see what manifests itself in this race. But I think our guys are about ready to take to the grid.
Yep, I reckon they're eagerly awaiting to see how things go. They've been waiting quite a few weeks for this race.
Yeah, a lot of heavy practice from these guys. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's get the race underway. The first race of the Sector 1 8th season in its history, about to go green here at Maggiore.
I know they can't hear me, but good luck, guys. Here we go.
Oh, I'm sure some of them have the broadcast up in their ears, but we will get cracking very shortly. Let's go racing here at Maggiore GP in Italy. The fictional circuit designed by Gran Turismo, found only on Gran Turismo. Don't want to miss this action. Grab your Caramello Koala, because you're going to want some dessert after the feast we serve you up in entertainment this evening. Here we go. To the grid we go for Division 3 here in Sector 1 Season 8, round number 1 at Maggiore. The lights are up and on. 5 red lights on the screen for our drivers, and they are out and away we go, racing for the first time. It's a good start from the 4th car on the grid. The Dadson entry gets away well, but it doesn't look like it's going to be good enough. Looking to the outside, Budsy has been overtaken on the inside by Boybagum from CP. And it's a great start for the CP entry there, and Beaver has gotten away nicely, which is exactly what he needed here. We'll have a quick look back from his car as we head through the first sequence of corners. You look back, you see Boybagum in second, Budsy in third, Rebs with a fantastic start there, up to P4 from P6, I believe it was, and Levenspiel has dropped down considerably. Well, actually, he's dropped down 1. I think Graham's had some excellent forward movements there as well. Looking back a little bit further, you can see that train of cars as Beaver gets away slightly, and Boybagum in hot pursuit here on those soft tyres as well. We're going to jump on board with Budsy now, looking back towards Boybagum. He's very, very close behind as they head through the S's. The dirty air now becoming a factor for these guys as they head through these high-speed corners. And there's a moment in the background there. We've got it on for P5 and 6 by the look of things. The Dadson car forced defensive by the red mist entry. The trademark livery shining bright in the eyes of the Dadson car. The bright gold there as well, trying to reflect back the same sort of attitude, but not able to do so. And 11 Spiel up to P5 here in the trademark liveried Red Mist entry.
I think this whole track with everyone running the same car, there's going to be, it's actually hard to pass from my perspective. So places like NASCAR corner is probably going to be one of the places you're going to see people dive down the inside.
It's going to be a bit of relying on mistakes and that sort of thing here, isn't it? And dealing with using the advantage of the slipstream, of course, as they head through. Straight up, particularly long. Someone's off in the distance there. I think it might be Beaver. Beaver's gone off. I don't know how, but he's going to lose out here to Squirrel as well. Beaver down to 7th. Now that has put a huge pain to his race.
Yeah, it has. I didn't see anything. I didn't actually see whether he just went out by himself or there was a little bit of contact.
It's happening as quickly as we can call it here. There's no time to watch a replay, unfortunately. We wanted to go back to the start there and have a quick look-see, but Boybegum takes the lead of the race here for CP Motorsport, leading the way against the odds as well, of course. We saw how dominant our very own Beaver was, but he's dropped down quite significantly there and is now outside the top 8.
And Budsy under attack from Revs as well. He's getting up very close.
Revs showing us what he's made of here, showing some of that Div 4 fight that he had last season, where he dominated race after race, 30-second win margins and such from this man. Very, very quick on his day, and here he is giving it to the best of them here in Division 3. Into NASCAR they go. He's going to look to the outside. You see that purple number shining in the face of the ISA Esports car, and it's a great switchback from Revs, and he takes the position from Budsy there as they drive up the hill. What a fantastic move, and it looked so telegraphed there from Revs as well.
I think that's why you'll see why he won Div 4 last season. When the guy's on point, he's actually really on point.
I'm not surprised to see it at all, to be honest. I think there was a lot of speculation as to whether Revs would be bumped to Div 3 or all the way to Div 2 here, and it looks like it was certainly a possibility with the way he's performing here in Division 3.
Yeah, certainly. I sort of thought he might be up the front, but like saying that I haven't seen everyone run, so it's a little bit hard to tell. I'm actually surprised that Beaver has dropped so far back, to be honest.
Has he? I think he must have got dirty tyres and really got freight trained by that entire line of cars, because you can see on the mini-map, the cars, the entire field is so close together still that, you know, you go off track for one moment and the entire grid just flies past you, which we've seen now from Beaver there. And we just saw a move as well from Livingsfield into turn 1, trying to make an attack on Budsy work, but Budsy shutting the door very aggressively on him and saying, no thank you, you're going to have to work harder than that, mate, sorry. I think down in P10 is where Beaver's currently sitting now. This is going to be a test of his mettle here, to see what his response is to adversity like this, see if he can make something happen from behind so many cars on the grid. He had such a good qualifying session, but you know, the race is not won and lost in qualifying. It's only started, so he does have to perform from here. So he's currently still hovering in the top 10. He's going to have to make some comeback overtakes later on in this race for sure.
Yeah, and it's early days yet, like you say, you know, first few laps in, everyone's bunched up, and as things start to spread out, and we see how people go with their fuel and their tyres, see what their pit strategy is. Yeah, a lot can change.
And so we're just looking back at a replay of Revs' move up to P4 on the opening lap there at turn number 4. A great move to take that position away. Great to see from him there in the early stages as well.
It was very smooth, not the slightest hint of any contact. He was straight up and through.
Great stuff from him there. So on to lap number 4 of 26 for these guys. So it is a marathon, not a sprint, but Boybegum is sprinting away, and that's for sure, in that CP car. That looks good too. It looks like a slightly Minecraft-inspired car, if I may say so. I see a little bit of pixelatedness on the bonnet there. I wonder if there's anything going on there, but I do like the colour scheme. Very dark and brooding, and of course the CP cars all with different colour schemes. So this is the Bez Media sponsored entrant, but there are other sponsors on their varying cars as well. I think we'll see another entry from CP in Division 1 later on this evening as well. 2 seconds the gap now for Revs behind, who's got a comfortable gap to Budsy as well of about 1.5 seconds. But Levenspiel not letting him go, and Squirrel as well in this fight too. And I think he might be close enough to launch a move into NASCAR here. Let's see.
Yeah, and looking at Boybegum's time, he's got the fastest lap with a 1:47.226. So he's definitely pushing the pace. A little bit of time's come back though to Revs. He's down to about a 1.5, 1.6, depending where he is on track. But yeah, some good times for a 26-lap race, that's for sure.
They're running it pretty strong, and especially considering what we saw in qualifying. You know, only 2 drivers who dropped into the 146s in qualifying. So to be within sort of half a second just about of those sorts of times, not too bad, particularly if you consider that Boybegum was not one of the drivers to clock a 146. It was Budsy and Beaver, who now sits P10, and Budsy currently hovering P3, just managing to hold on from Levenspiel for now.
And that's the thing you'll find with some of the drivers too. You'll find some drivers can put a really fast lap together, but their consistency mightn't be as great. Whereas you might find another driver who mightn't be able to, he might not get in the top 5, you know, but his consistency won't be far off those sort of numbers, but he'll do it lap after lap after lap.
Abilities of really the best, and that's what we're here to find at Sector 1, the best of the best. And it's a slog to get to the top division, but it's certainly attainable for these guys, and people like Rebs really making their steps count in the early stages here. Gone from Division 4 to Division 3 in 1 season, and looking like he's not shirking the challenge of doing it again. A Drivers' Championship here for Rebs would bump him straight up to Division 2 in time for Season 9, which could be a very, very tough challenge for him. It would be very, very interesting to see. Dab of the brakes there from Daz as we ride on board with TG Beaver. I think this might be the opportunity that Beaver's looking for to go down the inside and NASCAR and get himself up into the top 8 so that we can see him on the broadcast at all times. The Dean's entry pulls to the left. That's Daz 930 on the outside, down the inside for Beaver. Pulls it up at the apex, nicely done, textbook move. And it looked like the Deeds car was prepared to let that happen, really, because Beaver was clearly a lot quicker down that straight.
Yeah, a lot of the time, if, you know, someone's catching you and they're catching you like, you know, a good 4 or 5 tenths, half a second a lap, you know, the best thing sometimes is just to let the person through, especially this early in the race.
Especially if you know who they are. You know, you see Beaver, he's set a mid-46 in qualifying. You know he's going to be knocking on your back door nice and quick. He might have made the same mistake again, though. We saw him make a mistake earlier on in the race. He ran into the grass out of that last corner. Looking very defensive here on the way down to turn 1. Daz takes the position for now. Cut back and have a look. Daz down the inside. Is Beaver going to be able to hold it? No, he's not. Drops back down to P9. So, Daz not taking it lying down, it seems.
No, it looks like he's going to have a bit of a fight back. And that last corner, it's very easy to get that, just that slightest little touch on the grass. And with these cars, these GR2 cars, that grip and downforce is everything. The slightest touch on that grass and just that little bit of a slide in the rear, a little bit of front end tyre loss, and yeah, instantly you're losing 2-3 tenths.
Yeah, the moment you're offline in this car, you're really running into issues, aren't you? So, got to be very careful. Got to account for the dirty air as well. So these guys have to be a little bit careful. Looking a little bit loose there is Daz in the Deeds car, although that's not something we're not accustomed to seeing from the Deeds entries. A certain Morgan Davey is a very, very big fan of getting a bit tail happy on occasion. So perhaps this is the Deeds strategy, is to run the car to the limit of the traction and then some. We'll have a look now at VF, who's currently sitting in P7. Very, very strong so far. Just on the back of Killer on the Loose, who's driving for Lightning Motorsport there. White and green, looking very good there. A fresh livery for them, and onto the grass for VF. Really struggling to stay close, and there is Beaver down the inside again of Daz 930, and through he goes. Manages to take the position you see there in the background, or the foreground and shot. There they go, come through there, and the Kung Fu Racing car is ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to comment on VF as well, to say that, you know, the guy, you know, it's his first time up into Division 3 and he's still running mid-pack. He's doing really well.
Very, very strong. A bit further up the road, we've got Squirrel, currently sitting more or less on his own. He's got Budsy in his sights, but not too close right about now. Battle is really in that mid-pack. That's a really, really close fight between the guys back here.
I was actually going to ask you about Squirrel because I don't know, is he new for this season?
I think he participated in a handful of rounds last season with another late entry, much like Beaver, as we discussed a little bit earlier. So he's driving for Black Rose. I think he came in the late stages, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. I do know that Black Rose have a new driver on the roster in the absence of DP Mario, who withdrew towards the beginning of this season, I think, or left the team, and I think he's since withdrawn from the Sector 1 competition. So I know Black Rose has had some updates to their roster, but here is Squirrel now. He's within slipstream range of Budsy, looking pretty strong here in P5, so definitely a contender here in Division 3. And fairly consistent, fairly strong, about 5 seconds down the road from the leader, Boy Begum, who's running a very, very consistent race so far.
Yeah, I noticed that Revs is now within a second of Boy Begum. And with these cars, these GR2 cars, if you get too close, the aerodynamics, they can get drastically affected. So you might actually see people sit back for a little while and not get too close. They might sort of keep that low second gap so that they don't get at the person's dirty air. And we are up to, just starting lap 8. So expecting to see a bit of tyre wear start to come into this.
Yeah, so that pit window we were looking out for as well. Anyone on the 2-stop, although the hot tip is that the 1-stop is the more superior strategy. But there is the possibility of drivers coming in early just to get themselves out of the pack, especially if you're in that mid-pack. You could definitely drop out of there and get yourself into the pit, put on a fresh set of boots, and maybe with the clean air, put some quick laps in. That might actually be really, really beneficial as well. I've got word in the chat from some guys about Squirrel, who we were just talking about for Black Rose Racing. He is brand new to Sector 1 this season, so did not participate in any rounds last season. So debut race and great performance so far. P5 at the moment, and challenging, it seems, for P4 on Budsy as well.
Yeah, he's doing very well. And I just noticed as well, I don't know what lap he did it on, but Levenspiel has done pretty much a flat 147. So he's actually moving out quite nicely as well.
Yeah, so definitely a very balanced field here. There's a lot of guys who seem to be very competitive up the front end. Looks like VF here deep in the slipstream of Killer on the loose, but not close enough to go for a move this time around. Perhaps biding his time at this stage and waiting to see how the pit strategy plays out, because there will be question marks over the heads of these guys as to what's going to happen. But look at this racing. 4 cars within, a second of each other, half a second of each other, up and down here from about P6 down to P9, and VF really making a meal of it, making a fight out of it, and piling the pressure onto Keller on the loose. So that Lightning Motorsport car will have one eye on the rear view mirror there for sure as they head through. Beaver there in P8, so remember he was our pole sitter, looked very strong in the early stages, and an early mistake dropped him back down, and seemingly not able to replicate that blistering pace he had in qualifying to be quite as competitive in the racing.
No, and that's actually quite a big group stuck there in the middle, and they're probably not wanting that either. I'm sure Beaver doesn't want to be where he is, especially after that stellar start that he had in the quali. But I mean, to be stuck in a train like that, and these guys that are sitting at the back of it, and unfortunately it looks like someone might have gone again. But if you're stuck in the back of that train, they could be saving a bit of fuel in that as well. So this is going to be interesting once they go into that sort of 13 lap area. We start seeing people pitting, I'd say.
We've just missed a huge incident as well, so we're going to catch a replay here of Carbon Boy and what happened there on the exit of turn number 4. Because we were just jumping on board for the battle between him and the driver behind, and looked a little bit loose on the exit there and straight into the wall on the other side. And we were talking about that earlier. There's a little bit of a crest there as you come out of that corner that will unsettle the car if you're not careful, and clearly Carbon Boy a victim of that this time around, and now under threat from Graham for P12.
Yeah, they're I still can't believe how tight this whole pack is. Like, there's so many people within like half a second or so of the next person.
It's very impressive to see. Some really, really clean driving as well. Someone in the chat said it before. Hard, clean, and fair racing on display so far. Really awesome to see. The Div 3 boys showing us how it's done and how to race properly. You know, these guys are really setting the standards high for Season 8 here at Sector 1.
Especially the first race of the season, man. Like, you know what it's like. Everyone's blood's up sort of thing, and everyone's ready to race, and you've got the nerves. And
we've got an off there for Budsy. He's gone off at the exit of turn 2 through the grass, and dangerous rejoin there, collides straight in. I think he's had a failure. He's had a failure with his wheel.
Yep, he's had a failure.
No. Oh, he was having such a good race as well. He'll have to reconnect everything he's got and try to get going again, but he's going to be way on the back foot here. That promotes Squirrel to P4, and a little bit of clear air for him now as well for the Black Rose car. And a distant gap to Levenspiel in front. Now he can just set laps now with the absence of the driver in front. That's such a shame for the man who drove off the track there, or didn't drive off the track, but the failure. And that's the sort of failure that we're dealing with here in sim racing. Of course, the real life cars, gearbox failures, engine failures. Here, it's wheel equipment failures and controller failures that we can end up dealing with. So, just as much as it is in real life, there is an element of luck to the sim racing game. But we have to move on. We have to keep moving forward because there is still a race going on for these guys. Revs is still close to Boybegum in front, and actually Levenspiel is not too far behind either. So the top three are only 2 seconds spanning the three of them. So definitely a race on.
Yeah, I think actually Levenspiel might have taken about a second out, because I'm pretty sure he was 2 seconds behind Revs a few laps back. So I think he's actually making a bit of a move.
Definitely a bit of headway coming down here. So this is the part you were saying before, actually, about tyre wear coming in. So do you think maybe that these guys are Levenspiel's perhaps got the better tyre wear in comparison to Revs and Boybegum?
Yeah, just going through it, I would say he has a little bit better tyre.
Right on the back of Revs now. Let's jump on board here and see what happens here for the trademark Red Mist entrant here on the way into the sweeping right-hander, and looking very, very cruisy as he heads through up towards the S's. Now this is the part where the tyre wear is going to make a huge difference. Even in the dirty air, might see Levenspiel close right up here, shift up a gear on the way through the S's, and jump into the slipstream of Revs as they head down the back straight onto the grass. Lost a little bit of time there, so he's going to be on the back foot as they head towards the NASCAR corner. But these guys have both found time on Boybegum out front as well, so this battle is closing right up now.
I'm actually just having a look at Boybegum's times, and yeah, he's gone from about lap 5 from I say a 47.4, and he's pretty constant as those tyres wear. He's losing about a tenth a lap, so his consistency still is unbelievable. Like, as those tyres wear, he's only losing a tenth.
Yeah, looking very strong is Levenspiel. I'm very excited to see what he can do here. He's still got 2 laps until his pit window, because it looks like these guys are on the one-stop strategy, rather, going to lap 13 as they go around once more. So here we go.
He's definitely catching. He's definitely catching. He's down to under 4 tenths now.
Yeah,
he's into that slipstream.
That pressure is on Revs, and a bit of a twitch there for Boybegum out the front as well. These guys, look at them. They're closing right up now. The three of them, you could drape a blanket over them right now. I remember when my football coaches used to say that. Here we are using that terminology in racing. They come around turn 4 down towards turn 5. A little bit of a slipstream will get Levenspiel nice and close to Revs here, but probably not close enough to go for a move.
Not seeing anyone pitting just yet. Maybe at the end of this lap, or maybe lap 13. But these guys would be certainly feeling these tyres.
It's looking like that tyre wear is starting to become a huge factor, and we saw before the strategy guide suggesting that these guys might need to box around lap 10, and here we are on lap 12. They're still going strong. But that tyre wear clearly making a difference here. Revs falling back towards Levenspiel, and something that we don't really know the information about, but it would be interesting to know, is who's on a wheel and who's on controller. I don't know if you have any insights on that, Snake Eyes, but for those of you who don't know, if you are on a controller, it becomes quite a lot more difficult to manage your tyres and look after them on the front end. So if any of these guys are on those particular on that particular equipment, they might be at a bit of a disadvantage here.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I know a few of the guys that are on wheels. I don't know about Boybigum. I know that probably 3 or 4 of the guys below him are on wheels. I just noticed, though, Beaver back into 5th spot.
Alright, so he is making a comeback now. He's got past a couple of the guys, which is great to see for him. And, yeah, doing pretty well so far. A decent comeback.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that gap between Boybigum and Revs sort of keeps going out and coming back in a bit, but I think he did make up a little bit of time, but Levenspiel has also made up that time as well, so Revs is really under attack. Both of these guys, you know, nice, close, tight racing. It's really good to see.
You'll love to see, for sure, these guys really giving it everything right now. Approaching that pit window, as you say. So, lap 13 now. We're getting nice and close. So these guys will be thinking about it right about now.
I think we've got someone in the pits, to be honest.
Yeah. Further down, Graham in the pits there. And Black Project as well. So they're going in 1 lap early. So a little bit of an undercut there. We weren't really paying attention to where they were on track, but they may come out with a bit of an advantage. But it's not worked out well for Black Project here, who has come out in the dirty air of Graham in front. And what you really want on an undercut is clean air in front of you. The other thing these guys have to do when they pit is go for a fuel fill-up, because that fuel does not make it all the way to the end. So they do have to top up about 60 to 80 litres, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Snake Eyes?
Yeah, I know from about lap 13 you need probably roughly about 3/4 of a tank, 76 litres. Yeah, going that lap earlier, obviously they're going to have to take maybe a little bit more. But usually this track, there doesn't seem to be a real issue with fuel. Like, you can go to that first stint quite comfortably. It's more of a tyre issue. Yeah,
for sure. So you see the guys coming in. Oh, look at the fuel save on Boybigum. 29 litres in the tank. That's going to save him about 4 seconds, I think, in this stop, maybe even more, because the other guys will have to fill up by just about as much. So that is a massive, massive result there from that first stint for Boybigum. And out he comes, rightly so. Revs still filling up, and he hasn't stopped yet. 92 litres. Levenspiel's out with 85, and he is 5.5 seconds behind Boybigum. That is unreal.
That's impressive. That's an impressive stop to be like 29 litres still and be out the front leading a race where you're not getting any tow by anyone. You're not saving any fuel. That's really impressive.
That's all down to him. That's a really fantastic stint there from Boybigum in the early stages there. Really well done.
The Levenspiel has jumped Revs in that, and he's got a 2.5 second jump on him too, by the look of it. I'd say Revs might have taken on a little bit too much fuel.
Possibly, but it's also possible that Levenspiel didn't take on enough. So Revs might have a bit of fuel in hand in the late stages of the race here, depending on how things go.
Yeah, that's it. This last stint, when you have that little bit less fuel, you got fresh tyres. I think we'll see the times drop as well below, maybe into that 146s. I think we'll see. I don't know if we'll see a mid 46, but I reckon we'll be getting close to it, maybe a 46.6, 46.7.
Guys are really going to put the pedal to the metal now, I'm sure. Really going to come out swinging for this second stint, and it looks like everyone on the one-stop strategy right now, so battling on track. Has anyone not made a pit stop? I think we've got an issue down the bottom end there. Someone is off track. It's Beaver. Beaver is off the circuit on his outlap. I don't know what's happened here. We're going to have a quick look at a replay and see if we can figure out what's going on here.
He's not actually moving, so I wonder if he might have had a bit of a disconnect.
An issue as well.
Yep.
Our replay function is not working, unfortunately, so we're not going to be able to have a look at that. But he has pulled over at the very least, and there's the yellow flag for that. Pause the yellow flag for now, and there it is. He is lapped, so he's come out of the pits with a problem. Reminiscent of Haas F1 team 2018 at the Australian Grand Prix, you may remember. came out of the pits after a couple of great first stints, and both cars pulled over before they'd gone a couple of corners with loose wheels. So similar sort of thing happening here, pulling straight over to the side for Beaver. So an unfortunate possible retirement there for the Kung Fu racing car on debut, or on the team debut rather. They still have a car in the race though. Revs, Division 4 champion, on track for a podium here, just up the road from Squirrel, who we were talking about before actually, and is running a very, very strong race. Now in P4 and with the podium in sight. You can smell it. Smell it in the distance.
Yeah, he's not far behind at all.
Oh, he's very close.
Yeah, and and also here we go again with VF in position 5. We're just over halfway through the race, and you know, the guy that's been moved up from Div 4, also like as Revs was, but he's in position 5, and I think he's proven that they made the right choice by moving him up.
Looks like our man has gotten on the move there a little bit. Looks like Beaver trying to sort out his issues. No, he has disconnected now, unfortunately for him. A massive issue there, and we've got Budsy as well, who had a similar issue earlier with a disconnection of his equipment, driving off into the wall. Down in P13 at the moment, still trucking along, working hard. Currently 13th, he's got a 37-second gap to overcome if he wants to improve that at all. But the resilience is there, and I'm liking that. I'm liking that. And look at that, he's on a personal best lap as well, so he's pushing. He's not messing about here. He's seriously considering the possibility of being able to take a couple of positions back here. So, great fight back from Budsy there for ISA Esports, and really, really good to see the resilience there on display.
He's actually in a really good spot too if he wants to have a crack at that fastest lap and pick himself up a point as well.
True, very true. So if he goes for a stop late on in the race, and you know, he's already proven he's capable of a 46, and that's all it would take right now to unseat Levenspiel with a 47 flat. So definitely an option for him in the late stages here.
Yeah, he's got a really good lead now. He's out to nearly 5 seconds, but tell you what, Levenspiel, he's another guy that came in mid-season last season, so why he mightn't have finished higher up in the order last season, he didn't get to do a full season. So now that he's actually getting to do a full season, it's going to be very interesting to see how this guy goes, because obviously he's got some really good pace and he's got some good consistency as well.
Off to a fantastic start here. What I'm finding interesting is the gap to Boybegum. When he came out of the pits, it was about 5.5 seconds. It's now back to that, but briefly there, it was down to about 4.9, 4.8. So he was making inroads. So it's entirely possible that Levenspiel could attack Boybegum in the late stages of this stint. We saw how excellent his tyre wear was in the first stint as well, which may make a large difference in the late stages of this race. We've got messages in the chat from TG Beaver. VR reset 3 times, so he's driving with a VR headset on there in this race. So, and has stated that it will be the last time he uses it, which I tend to agree with. I think you're limited by a VR headset here on this game, unfortunately. Good for the immersion, not good for the competitive side of things, and clearly having issues there during the race. So very, very unfortunate for you there, Beaver. But I think you really impressed a lot of people this race. So big things to come for you later on in the season, I'm sure. An unfortunate retirement, but these things happen in sim racing. Equipment failures and that sort of thing. Just one of those things that happens. So sit back and enjoy the show for the rest of the race. Hopefully these guys will put one on for you. And we'll chug through to the end here.
Yeah, I do know that with the VR headsets, especially like when they're coming out of the pits, I think you have to be looking exactly straight ahead or in a certain position for it to set itself in that. And so if the driver actually looks slightly to one way, then their picture isn't centered.
Oh wow, yeah. So you run into massive issues.
Yeah, and that's why he would have coming out of the pits and that he's had that big crash as well. And I'd say early on, maybe he's lost a bit of connection there as well, because I think that the outside cameras might pick up a bit of light, and if I'm not sure where he lives, But if he's started off and it's been light outside, he's got a bit of natural light coming in, everything might be fine. As the time starts to wear on and it gets a bit darker, he might run into some tracking issues as well.
Yeah, that does make sense. I think it might be part of the problem there for sure. I'm just on board, or not on board with, but we're looking at the Stranger, who's kind of flown under the radar a little bit this race. We haven't really put the camera on him too much, and you were talking a little bit earlier as well about the brightness of his livery, and I really like it. That purple or pink, whatever you want to call it, contrasting against the black looks really good. And he's currently in pursuit of Daz and on track for a P6 here potentially, maybe even better.
Yeah, yep. And look, these guys, all these guys are putting in some fantastic times. It's not an easy track, and people have had time to put in some practice. So some of these guys have probably put in some weeks and weeks of practice, and it really shows. Like they're putting some fantastic times down.
It does show. I've seen so few mistakes from these guys, so much consistency, so much competitiveness. Here we go with the Stranger, showing the nose on Daz. These guys are showing qualities of seasoned drivers at this track in this car. Like you say, like they've spent hours and hours and hours churning out laps and really getting the grips here, which is probably goes a ways to explaining why this division is so competitive. Right? We had that long train of cars for the longest time in the early stages. Still, fights on track happening. Stranger on Daz right now. Very, very tantalising prospect of a race.
Yeah, like as you say, this is my first time as being a race director, so I don't really know everyone that's in Div 3. But man, looking at Boyby Gum, like this guy is now out to 4.7 seconds, 5.8, sorry, over Lev. And Lev himself is like really pumping along. Isa Budsy, there we go, a 146.7.
There it is.
So yeah, he's put himself down. Yeah, yeah, he might have a live stream going.
Yeah, no, great.
I'm glad I didn't
tactic.
put the mocker on him. I'm glad I didn't put the mocker on him.
He's on again. Look at him. He's 3/10 purple. He's absolutely throwing it down. This guy. Imagine what could have been for the ISA esports team in this race without that equipment failure. And I'm sure that that Beaver's feeling the same way. Like this race was looking really good for the both of them. And I mean, I don't know if Budsy can overhaul 30 seconds to Pruitt in the late stages of this race. And he's gone purple again. There we go. He's improved by half a tenth.
Yeah.
I want to say, even if he catches Pruitt, he's going to have a real hard time overtaking because we know what Pruitt's like on the defense. He's super difficult to pass. So I think he's going to have to settle for just the fastest lap, although that's no mean feat, of course. 46.668 is unbelievable in race trim, particularly for this division. It's absolutely flying for these guys, and it just shows how competitive he would have been out the front. Boybegum, who's got a couple of 46.8s to his name, he's just dropped a 46.9 there, so he's really chugging along consistently. Like, this is awesome race pace in the CP Motorsports car, and I think I saw someone say it in the chat a little bit before, back to winning ways for CP Motorsports. What they do best is win, and here they are leading the way. Bez Media vehicle out by nearly 6 seconds now, dominating this field in a race where we thought that Budsy and Beaver were going to be the ones that were running away with it. Here's Boybegum saying, no thanks, this is my race, thank you very much. I'll take the first win of the season if you don't mind.
Unfortunately, I think, some technical issues has taken Budsy and Beaver out of it, but there's no denying, like, Boybegum, he's like, really hasn't put a foot wrong so far. He's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, I get the feeling, even if they hadn't had those equipment failures, this guy would still be out the front. It's a masterclass here so far from him.
Yeah, he's putting in really good, consistent times. And look, it shows too, like, he's got this massive gap back to Lev. I just want to say, I've just been going through some of the tyres and that as well. He probably has a little bit more wear on his tyres than, say, Lev and Rebs, and then sort of Squirrel as well. And there's a few others I noticed as well. Carbon Boy is really good on his tyres. And I think there was someone else. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting to see that there was only a couple of guys that came in early. I think Gurr and Black Project.
Yeah, 10th and 11th.
So their tyres have got the most wear, obviously, because they come in. Yeah, but there's quite a bit of difference, like up to probably a good 10%, 15% difference in tyre wear between some of the cars.
Wow, I'd say we're about halfway through this stint, and we're talking, yeah, like you said, 10%, 15% difference. That's pretty significant. So, who's struggling the most right now for tyre wear?
I'd probably say VF. Maybe he's probably got the slight, and I'm not talking huge amount. I'm talking like not a 10% overall, but there's probably that little bit of a 10% difference.
Well, he's got a bit of time in hand right now, so not looking too bad overall. I think he can afford to have a little bit of a tyre disadvantage. The pace he's setting, although his last couple of laps had been 48, so he's going to want to bring that down a little bit if he wants to stay competitive. What about the 3 or 4 out the front? I want to guess that Levenspiel's got the best tyre wear of the bunch based on what we saw in the first stint.
He did up until just recently. I think it's leveled out a little bit. I would say Squirrel, Revs and Lev have all got pretty much exactly the same tyre wear. Boyby Gum's probably got the worst out of the 4 of them, but the guy's got a 5-second lead, so basically from here on he could lose a second a lap and still win, because then Lev and Spill would have to try and get past him.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're on the money there. So these guys are fairly well balanced at the moment. There's no huge disparity in the tyres right now, although there we go, Boyby Gum got the second on his best time that lap. Levenspiel a lot quicker, about 6/10 found on that lap, so Levenspiel is showing a slight sign more consistency.
Yeah, he's got slightly better tyres as well, so he's probably going to be able to hold that pace a little longer. But like I say, Boyby Gum, he knows he's got that gap, and he might actually play with that a bit and let himself back off a little bit and use some of that time just to save his tyres a little bit.
It is coming down alarmingly quick though. Look at down to 4.5 seconds now. That's 8/10 in the first sector, and I think Levenspiel might smell blood in the water here.
I think he's got a little bit less fuel too, Boyby Gum. I don't know how much he's got left for the rest of the race. I'd say he's got enough, but he might be conserving a little bit as well. I'm not sure.
Is Rebs at an advantage to Levenspiel on fuel still?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Right. So I wonder if any of these guys are going to be coming in a bit fine when it comes to fuel towards the end of the race. I'd be willing to bet that Levenspiel would be the closest to not making it. But
you would think so.
He was nearly 10 litres short of Rebs on the refill, so he's got a bit of time to climb.
What sort of jump can you remember he got? Because he was just that little bit behind Revs, but when he came out of the pits, he had was it a 2-second gap?
It was about 2 seconds. So
yeah.
I think I caught it briefly that Levenspiel filled to about 85 litres and Revs filled to about 92, which equates to about that's 7 litres difference. Assuming that they came in with exactly the same amount of fuel, that's about a second and a half of a jump there. But they were very close on track. I think Levenspiel was sort of like within a couple of tenths of Revs there, so it was enough to jump him and just get a slight lead on him, and now he's absolutely driven away here. So been a really good second stint from Levenspiel, I think.
I think things might be starting to heat up between Revs and Squirrel as well. It's fantastic seeing Revs, coming from such a dominant Div 4 racing season last season, and his debut into Div 3, and he's in 3rd spot and doing really well. And then Squirrel, he's come from sort of out of nowhere, pretty much an unknown first race with Sector 1, and bang, 4th place, hunting for that, hunting for getting on the podium.
Yeah, it's definitely a good sign for both of these drivers. I think you know, Revs might be grateful just to have somebody to race now. You know, he was racing on his own a lot last season in Division 4, kind of out on his own out the front. And now he's feeling the pressure from Squirrel. I'm sure that gap kind of hovering between half a second and a second at the moment. Squirrel not close enough for a move at any kind of point right now, but these guys are. I think it's going to really heat up in the late stages. Like you say, you know, he's within that distance where Revs is going to start checking his rear view just to be sure of things. And I think Squirrel's thinking about, when do I go for it? How do I get close enough? And what do I do when I am?
Yeah, look, and he's getting that little bit of a push here and there, trying to get up a bit closer. Very hard on this track though, with cars that you know, are basically exactly the same performance. So even if you can get right up on someone, actually getting a pass from them without them making a mistake is very hard. But I reckon you're right. I reckon, knowing Revs as much as I do, I reckon he's absolutely loving the fact that he's having a really good race, and he's having a race where he's actually having to defend off someone and he's not 20 seconds down the road.
Yeah, that's right. The other big battle on track right now, I think, that's going to sort of culminate in a massive grandstand finish is the Stranger versus Daz. These guys have been, you know, kind of within this sort of range of each other for most of the second stint. And the Stranger, he sort of, I think he was outside the top 10 in qualifying, and he's jumped up to P7 now, and he's knocking on the door of P6 here as they come into the S's. I think he's having a little bit of a hard time with the dirty air coming off the back of Daz's car there, a little bit slidey through the S's. Yep. But I get the feeling it's only a matter of time before he's close enough to launch a move.
Yeah, but having a bit of a look at it though, looking at Daz's tyres compared to the Stranger is using up his tyres at quite a faster rate, trying to bridge that gap. So while he might get up behind him, by the time he gets there, he might have a little bit of trouble with those tyres, I would think.
Alright, before anything gets out of control here, Boy Begum leads the way by 3.3 though. That gap has come down. Levenspiel is chasing hard but has only 2 laps to go. Revs with pressure from Squirrel in 4th, looking for a move there. VF is kind of on his own right now. He's looking solid for P5. Daz under pressure from the Stranger. That's your second 2-car battle on track there. And then Killer on the loose and Carbon Boy, another 2-car battle on track here. So we're going to keep track of 3 2-car battles in the late stages of this race. Here's Carbon Boy within half a second of Killer on the loose. He's going to be thinking about it, and we were talking about before. Carbon Boy with some of the best tyres in the field right now. Looking really strong here and potentially with an advantage in the late stages of the race here.
Yeah, yep. Daz and Carbon would have the best tyres in the whole field, I would say.
So Daz defending from the Stranger. He's actually pulled out a gap there, so we can forget about that one for now. Now this is the one that's going to get real interesting real quick. 4/10 the gap as they head towards NASCAR. Revs feels the threat. He pulls over to the inside to break the slipstream, and Squirrel shows dominance by not chasing it. Now that's an interesting move coming down to NASCAR. I don't need your slipstream, mate. I'll pass it without it, I think, is the message coming off the Black Rose entry.
Yeah, and he's probably just trying to get a bit of away from that dirty air. I noticed Boy Begum has used up a bit of that time as well. Oh, he's starting to stretch it back out a little bit again, but Lev's definitely on a hunt.
2.7, I don't think it's going to be enough, unfortunately, for Levenspiel, but it's a great fight back there, and he's done really well to pull away from Revs in the late stages of this race as well. Now, Revs has to start thinking about how he's going to keep this position from Squirrel, who is pushing really hard in the late stages. See him go wide there. Does he look for one down here into turn number 1? Not this time around. Revs doesn't worry about it too much. Nice and close here. Look at this from these guys.
These guys will be throwing everything into it too.
Looking back from Revs' car here. Squirrel nice and close here, but it looks like that dirty air might be causing him some problems. A little bit wide there on the exit of 4. Down towards turn 5. Nice smooth line there from Revs. He looks like he's got this all gathered up, does Revs. I think Squirrel might not have a chance here. The Stranger has dropped off the back of Daz. He's got a massive problem. Might be a fuel issue there for him. Carbon Boy on the back of Killer on the loose. Still nice and close here. Let's see what he can do through the S's. A nice exit there for Carbon Boy. Killer a little bit narrower on the exit there. A little bit later on the power. The Stranger is actually coming back to these guys as well. I think we might see both of them supersede the Doghouse car. Look at the run from Carbon Boy on Killer on the loose. They're going to come down the straight. He's got to pick which way he wants to go. He's going to be forced to the outside into NASCAR. That's not where you want to be. He's dropped behind though, and he might think about the inside this time around. The Lightning Motorsport car does not defend. Why not? Chops the nose off instead, and here up the hill they go. Killer on the loose, just ahead. The Stranger. Boybegum has crossed the line in P1. We've just missed that by 1.7. Levenspiel, second. Revs in P3 has just held on for the podium against Squirrel as they cross the line. Squirrel is stoked with that result. VF is going to come across the line to take a well-deserved P5 and a solid result there for the Dadson entry in the first race of the season. Daz is going to cross the line 4 seconds clear of the Stranger. I'm looking back. He's not quite been caught by Killer and Carbon Boy, and Killer is going to hold on from the Obsession car here. Just about. Graham in P10 for Dadson Motorsport, Black Project P11. Manages to bring it home. Pruitt in P12 and Budsy, who took a lot of time out of Pruitt in the late stages there, managed to snatch the fastest lap, and get himself that extra point. Great stuff from Budsy there. Good damage control in the result of that equipment failure he had earlier on in the race. Here's Pruitt across the line for Obsession Motorsport, P12 there. So 2-point scoring positions there for the APR Automotive or APR Motorsport team. Budsy will come across the line, P13. Damage limitation for ISA Esports after an equipment failure in the early stages, and 1 DNF in this race from Beaver out the back, who unfortunately does not finish up here. But a race it was. A race it was. Wow.
I think we had a bit of everything in this race, to be honest. We've had some, we've had a DNF, we've had some, people losing their wheel. Yeah, we've had some spins, we've had a bit of, it's been and some really impressive driving, I must say. Some really good, clean, impressive driving from these guys. Just setting the examples, especially the first race of the season, just showing everyone how it's done.
Yeah, that was an absolutely quality race from these guys, and if I didn't know any better, I would have thought they were the top division. It was just a masterclass and beautiful driving all round, up and down the field. These guys really showed us how it's done today, and I think Division 1's got a lot to live up to this evening. So we'll just briefly go over our results for the race this evening. Boybegum in P1 takes the first win of the season for CP Motorsports by 1.7 seconds over Levenspiel, who made him work for it in the late stages. That tyre wear, clearly a strength in that red mist car there in P2, really bringing that gap down in the late stages. But Boybegum managed to hold on. A masterful drive there. Really, really good result from him. Very, very impressive going forward in Division 3 here. Rebs, your champion from Division 4 last season, starts off his campaign in Division 3 with a podium, so it's a really solid start for him there. And Kung Fu Racing pick up podium in teams points as well. Squirrel in P4 for Black Rose Racing on debut. A great result for him as well. I'm sure Jimmy at Black Rose will be stoked with that one. In the top 5 even. And VF as well on debut in Division 3. Another promotion from Division 4 and a late one at that. So he was due to race next week and he got called up for a week early. And here he is in the top 5. What a result for him and the Dadson crew there. I think they'll be popping the Bacchus cans in the pit lane before long, I'm sure. Daz 930 in the Deeds entry in P6. A solid result for him as well. Managed to hold off the stranger who fell off the back a little bit towards the late stages of the race. And Killer on the Loose in P8 was chasing him down, but not able to get close enough, unfortunately for him. But he held off Carbon Boy, who was driving for APR Motorsport there, managed to P9, and the top 10 is completed by Graham for the Dadson Racing. 2 top 10s for them. They'll be happy with those results for sure. Black Project in P11, Brewer P12, Budsy in P13, who snagged the fastest lap as well after an equipment failure. You know, what could have been for the ISA Esports team there in this race. But, you know, he did what he could in damage limitation in the late stages there to get that fastest lap back. And TG Beaver, another equipment failure as well, does not finish this race and will, I don't know if he'll take any points home. I get the feeling there will be something on the cards for him, but that will be decided by the stewards at a later date. But unfortunately, a non-finish for him here this evening. So, the only question that remains for Division 3 is who's your driver of the day? And I think there are so many worthy nominations. I honestly don't think there's many guys in this field that I wouldn't nominate. It'd honestly be easier to say that, though, who I wouldn't nominate for driver of the day. What do you think, Snake Eyes? Who was your number one performer of this race?
Yeah, look, it's really hard to say, you know, especially with Budsy coming out and getting that, you know, having issues and then having that comeback, you know, and having a really good, strong go and getting that fastest lap of the race. I thought that was like a really good shot. It's really hard to say, man. Yeah, like I say, Lev didn't get to do a full season last season. Revs new straight up from Div 4. But I don't know. I think I'd have to give it to VF, and that might seem a little bit strange, but I think a guy that's been called up at the last minute, been bumped up into Div 3, and become 5th, I think he's done a really good job.
Yeah, that's a great call, and I think I'm going to agree with you there. My honourable mention would have to be Squirrel there in P4 on his debut. You know, you come into Sector 1 and it can be, you know, a little bit, it's quite out of your comfort zone. It's not something you're used to, especially if you've never done league racing before. You know, you jump in this lobby and someone's running it and they start making decisions and you're not always sure what's going on. And here he was in the race, P4, solid result there. Levenspiel, another one who really impressed me tonight. The tyre wear, I'm a sucker for good tyre wear, I'll tell you what. And he really impressed me there with his resurgences in the late stages of the stint against the other drivers. The consistency, the ability to continue to put in really, really quick laps towards the late stages of a stint. Really, really impressive there. I think those guys are definitely it for me. Budsy, another honourable mention. You know, he was on for a great result. Unfortunately, an equipment failure, which we would suspect is no fault of his own. And to return and take the fastest lap without even taking that extra pit stop, just a sign of what he could have achieved if he had not had that failure. So another one of them too. But for me, I think VF takes it, much like what you say, and I'm seeing a bit of agreement in there in the chat as well. But thank you very much, and a great debut in the box for you there, Snake Eyes. I hope you're happy with your performance this evening.
Yeah, look, I was pretty nervous, to be honest. You know, a bit out of my comfort zone, but you know, I want to just jump in and try and help as much as I can. You know, such a good community, Sector 1. You know, I've met a lot of really good people through it, and continue to meet good people.
That's the seal of approval we want here at Sector 1, so really good to hear. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to commentating with you once again later on in the season.
Thanks very much, mate. You have a good night, and congratulations, especially to Boybegum. That's an excellent drive, and like to everyone really. Like first race of the season, you know, like you say, it's too much to. You want to sort of shout out to everyone because there's so many people that did such a great job.
I agree. Well, we're going to move on here to the second race of the evening. We'll go to a quick intermission now and come back in a couple of minutes. So make sure you grab your snacks, your water, whatever you need. Go to the bathroom. We'll be back very shortly with more Sector 1 sim racing action. It's the big boys next. Division 1 here in Season 8 for Sector 1. So do not go anywhere. See you soon. Welcome back to all of our Sector 1 Sim Racing faithful from Australia, New Zealand, and around the world. Welcome back to the broadcast for the first round of Sector 1 Season 8 here. And we are at the Lago Maggiore circuit once again, and now we move into the cream of the crop. It's Division 1 coming up for you next of all. My name is Atom. I will be running you through tonight's racing. And I am joined for the first time by a debutant in the box. It is Black Friday. Say hello, mate.
Hello, how are we? How is everyone going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How are you doing? How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, not bad, a little nervous first time, but if this race is as exciting as race for the Division 3 was, I'll be very happy with tonight, so yeah.
I tend to agree with you. I think this division's got a lot to live up to, but I'm sure they'll give it their best. So to remind you all, this is Division 1 that we're moving into now. So there's your division list on the screen now. So on the left-hand side in the column there, that is our driver list for tonight's race coming up. Captain Muffin for CP Motorsports up the top. Diswood for Brocky05 Sim Racing, which we'll get to shortly, just by the way. Faff in the, I believe he drives for the Black Rose Racing team. I could be wrong. I think that's correct. Geesh for Respawn Esports and your Division 1 champion of yester season as well. John27 TCT for Lightning Motorsport. Lenosis for APR Motorsport. LRC Kaizen, a debutant this season. I'm not sure who he's driving for. I think it might be ISA Esports. I could be wrong there, but I believe that's who he represents. Morgan Davey, a faithful of Deeds Racing. Mountain Goat making his return to Sector 1. The prodigal son, who shall return to Sector 1 for season number 8 after a dual season hiatus. Excuse me. Noodles for Respawn Esports there returns as well. He was a participant in season 6, I believe, or it might have been season 5. He makes his return for this season as well. Ricky Bobby for APR Motorsport. Prima GTR, formerly TX3 GTR, as we know. And a multiple-time, I believe he's a 3-time champion here at Sector 1 Sim Racing, so definitely not someone to count out. Wacky, they're driving, I believe, for Dadson Racing, if I remember correctly. Oh, God, I'm trying to remember all the correct teams here, but I've got to be a little bit careful with it. I think we're going to be missing Wakey. No, we're not. Sorry. Wakey is driving for... Look here quickly for you guys. I think that's Kraken Esports. Yes, it is Kraken Esports. So the black and orange of Kraken Esports for young Wakey, as he's known affectionately by the Sector 1 faithful, and of course the youngest driver on the roster at the moment. And Hellraiser for, I believe he drives for Brocky05 Sim Racing also, alongside Diswood. And I think that Hellraiser has had an adjustment to his username to Turtle Power. So that will be the name to look out for this time around. And we're going to have a quick look here at a team breakdown for Brocky05 Sim Racing. So there you go, Brocky05 Sim Racing, owned by Brocky05 himself, of course, or Dean Allen, who is a 6-time, I believe, Sector 1 Sim Racing champion in Division 1. So he is a veteran of the sport here at Sector 1 and now owns the team. He doesn't drive for them, he just manages the team. And he's looking to make an impact here at Sector 1. So this is their second season after their debut last season for Season 7. They were 14th place in the Teams Championship last season, so not off to the most fantastic start, but plenty to build on. I think they had issues last season with car selection. Of course, last season, if you weren't with us, there was a bit of a difference to this season. Of course, this season, we're all in the same car up and down the grid. Last season, it was more like a manufacturer's series, as you would see in the GT World Series. In fact, it was almost exactly like the manufacturer's series. We were driving for manufacturers and alternating Group 4 to Group 3 week to week. And the Brocky05 Sim Racing team was driving the Subaru, which wasn't the most competitive car for the majority of the season, which is part of the reason their results were towards the back end of the grid. Their highest recorded Drivers' Championship position was 7th, so that was their best performing driver. I forget which driver that was, but 7th is mid-pack, so definitely the opportunity is there to build something from there. They have claimed 7 podiums on their debut season, so definitely scoring points for sure, and 774 points total accumulated across the team. And the team, I believe, remains unchanged apart from one. Sorry, no, they've got two changes from last season. They have let go of Shizer, or Shizer has tentatively retired due to life reasons. As we all know, life does get in the way sometimes, but that is what's happened there. He's been replaced by Wartime in Division 4 there for their Cat 2 drivers. Keza Johnson retains his spot in the team. Diswood retains his spot in the team in Division 1. He's driving tonight alongside Mountain Goat, who makes his return and who has been very close with Brocky for the longest time, so no surprise to anyone that he's driving for Brocky05 Sim Racing this season. A reminder then about the track that we're competing on tonight, Autodromo Lago Maggiore, the full GP circuit, as we saw in Division 3 before, a tricky circuit, and definitely one that you have to have your wits about you for the entire race. 3 times tyres, 3 times fuel, seeing our guys through the race this time around. And here's your strategy guide breakdown once again. 1 stop or 2 stop, depending on what you feel like doing, but it looked like the 1 stop was the go from Division 3, so we can expect to see a bit of the same from the guys this time around. So 12 or 13 laps is generally the pit window here at Maggiore for these guys. Now, I think we are just about ready to get Div 1 quali underway. How are we looking, Black Friday?
I've just pushed the button. We've got a few seconds to our qualifier starts.
Righty, very good. Our drivers are just about ready to go. We're going to qualifying for Division 1. Now, tell me, Black Friday, what should we expect to see from the drivers here? Who are you predicting to be at the top of the standings come the end of qualifying?
In all honesty, there's probably about 6 drivers here that are going to be doing close to a mid 45. So,
Mid
I mean, it's on for young and old. Yeah.
Wow. But we saw a mid 46 was the best time in Division 3 last time around. The qualifying time was a 46.4. And you're saying these guys are potentially going to be an entire second faster.
Yeah, there's about 6 or 7 of them that have done somewhat of a 45, but mid 45 is probably what's going to get top spot here tonight.
Oh, so that is tantalising to say the least. Now, having a quick look on track, we are currently got the camera trained on Lanos. As you can see there, the purple number on the window banner, the number 70, signifies a division champion. Now, he's not the champion of Division 1 of yester season, but he is the champion of Division 2. So he netted himself a promotion after dominating Division 2 last season in similar style to Rebs, of course, in Division 4. So here he is flying his craft in Division 1 this time around. The other one operating a purple race number, Jeesh. Out the front, sorry, not out the front, but rocking the number 1 in purple on his car. Lovely to see. The only driver in Sector 1 who is permitted to use the number 1 after being the Division 1 champion last season. So he'll be looking to retain some of that form and performances, see what he can do here this evening. Now, while these guys get onto their first flying lap, I'm quickly going to back myself out of the lobby because I've got a bit of a bug where I can't see all of the liveries on the screen. So I'm just going to back out of the lobby and re-enter because that should resolve that issue for us. And we shouldn't miss any of the action because the guys are only just starting their first flying lap. So get back in there very, very shortly for you. Do you have any names for us there, Black Friday, of who you think is going to be one of the guys to unseat at the top and be up there in the top 3?
Well, I've got 3 names I can give you. Look, so I reckon the top 3 is going to be Jeesh, Young Wakey, and Noodles. They're the 3 quickest ones I've seen around here at times during our test starts.
That was Jeesh, Noodles, and who, sorry?
Young Wakey.
Young Wakey, okay. So a lot of people had their money on Mountain Goat, who we're actually on board with at the moment, and you don't think he's in the mix for that top 3 there?
Well, as I said before, there's probably about 6 or 7 of them that are going to be fighting for those top 2 positions in qualifying. He is one of them, but the 3 I just said are probably my pick of the 3 after watching him for a little while.
Loving the little decal on the underside of that wing on that Brocky05 Sim Racing car. You have a look as it comes around. Little goatee logo and goatee name on the back there. Love to see it. A little bit of a touch from the livery designer of that car as he comes around to set the first flying lap. Let's see what it is. It comes across the line. First flying lap on the board for Mountain Goat. 46.0. Noodles goes to a 45.6 off the bat. Mahindajit or GTR not able to crack into the 45s, and Jeesh into P2 with a 45.8. Early stages, but the respawn cars throwing the gauntlet down. Let these guys know that they're not here to play around. Goat just in third, not too far off, and purple through sector 1, so clearly on pace here. Now the question is, will these guys come in for a pit stop in the middle of qualifying, or will we see them run the entire session on the one set of tyres? I get the feeling that a pit stop might be viable, but if I know anything about Jeesh, who is of course our Sector 1 Sim Racing Division 1 champion from last season, he's a big fan of getting into a rhythm and just grinding out laps back to back to back, so I would expect to see him run all the way to the end of the session on the same set of tyres. There's a purple sector there through the middle sector. There are 4 sectors on this track, so he's gone through 2 sectors there. And NASCAR here is basically the entirety of the 3rd sector. So as he comes to the top of the hill here, we will see another sector split very shortly through this right-hander. And the sector split will pop up on your screen now. He's 10th blue, but Noodle's clearly nailing NASCAR on his flying lap. Let's have a look at Noodles himself. Coming around, not sure if he's on for a good lap here. He's got a bit of what is potentially dirty air, but will now turn into a slipstream down the straight. 44, 45, it's not. It is an improvement. Still a 45.6 though. Not down to a 45.5 just yet, but you did say the mid-45s were on, and you were right, Black Friday. These guys are proving you right. Now, Lenosis is one to watch for sure. Definitely want to see what he can do here in Division 1. Currently P5, a lot like another guy who got a promotion up to a new division this season, and that was VF, who was P5 in Division 3 just earlier this evening. And Lenosis showing that he does belong in Division 1, undoubtedly P5 right now. Great to see.
Yes, he's definitely off to a great start for his first race in Division 1.
Looking very strong and wearing that purple number with pride. He's got a bit of dirty air in front of him now in the form of the ISA car, I believe that is. Or it might be the Brocky05 Sim Racing car. Someone I want to check out is Prima GDR, who's running a very special livery here for Sector 1 this season. So now this is a collaboration livery between Hooncorp Esports and Prima, who are the esports organisation that GDR represents, based in France. And he's here all the way in Australia representing that team, and as part of his Sector 1 deal with Hooncorp Esports, it was a requirement that his livery would represent Prima Esports as well. So looking good, a nice collaboration there. You see sort of the design on the front end is very Prima-esque. That's sort of their gist, is that sort of navy, white and red and blocky design with a bit of symmetry, and then on the side, on the rear quarter, you can see the red and blue stripes of Hooncorp there on the back end, and the black rear end as well. So, love to see it. I know that's a lot of insight for someone who, should be unbiased towards these teams and things like that, but thought I'd throw that out there for you guys and give GDR sort of a bit of representation there for his team as he completes his first out lap on the new set of tyres. Now, Jeesh has set a faster lap, but it wasn't enough for pole. Noodles coming out swinging here in the early stages of Division 1 Round 1. Mountain Goat still holds on to third. He's come into the pit box for a fresh set of tyres. Looks like he's going to get 2 laps out of them, I would imagine, based on the amount of time remaining. You look down in the bottom left corner of the screen. 8 minutes ticked over, 2 minutes to go in this qualifying session. So with the laps being about 1 minute 45 per lap, we can expect these guys to get 2 more laps out of these tyres. Or in Goat's case, I think he's only going to get 1 more flying lap. But we'll see. We'll see what he can do.
That's definitely, most of the field is going to be finishing on fairly fresh tyres. So we could see the times drop a little bit here.
I think so. Lenosis has picked up a half-second penalty, which he'll serve now. Thankfully for him, it is an outlet, and he's going to burn that penalty now, which will mean it will not affect him on his flying lap. Got to be careful with things like that. Picking up a penalty like that is not what you want to be doing here. Jeesh coming round, and I think I was accurate in my statement. No pit stop for Jeesh. He's run a 45.7 and a 45.6. Let's see if he can drop a 45.5. Here we go, across the line for the 3rd time flying lap. There we go, 45.797, no improvement. But consistency is certainly there. Now this will be his final lap. There's only a minute left on the clock. He's not got enough time to get around and do another. Noodles starts his final flying lap. Let's go on board and see how the fastest man on track does it. Out of turn 2 there. Into the left-hander. Bit of a lift. Onto the brakes and hug the inside around this one. On the throttle carefully with that crest on the way out. Riding all the way to the outside of the curb. A little bit sliding on exit there as well, but hopefully that didn't cost him too much time. Down by a 10th. GDR sets a 45.9. That bumps him up to P4 there. Not a bad place to be right now, but he's going to need to nail this last lap. He's got 1 to go. He needs to unseat Goat if he wants a chance at chasing down the respawn boys. There we go. Past the S's, you saw how much of the corner that Noodles was cutting through there, and it's not enough to improve his time so far. Come towards NASCAR. Jeesh just up the road. Noodles will be hoping that Jeesh is not on an improvement of a lap, because he is not on one himself. We know how good that Noodles' NASCAR was on his fast lap. So I wouldn't expect an improvement here. Still down by 3/10. Looks like a 45.6 might be the pole time, unless Jeesh can have a conversation about it. Through to the final sector.
To improve, he's just gone off the track. So he's lost a fair few seconds there. He won't improve his time.
Car is out. Jeesh has not improved. Noodles will come across the line. I think he knows he's not going to improve either. It's a 46. Mountain Goat comes across the line. No improvement. Ties into the line. In P6 right now. He'll hold on to that for now. No improvements down the field. Morgan Davey comes across the line. He's going to hold. No, he drops to P9 as Muffin unseats him. Young Wakey bumps himself up to P5. He's right on the back end of GDR. GDR still on a lap now. Let's see what he can do. Someone approaching the line as well now. No improvement for them. No, there is. Woody. He does improve, but not by enough to put himself in the top 8. Here's GDR through the last corner. Although, sorry, you said, didn't you, Black Friday? He went off the track. There you go. That's 2 minutes. So that's not going to be an improvement. So that is your qualifying run and done. And a little bit of a shake-up of the field here, I think, for these guys. Some question marks over that result, I'm sure. Let's move over to our daily results. Here you are, your grid for the Div 1 race for round 1 here at Maggiore GP here in Italy. Noodles takes pole position with a 45.634. Jeesh just behind with a 0.677, 0.043 separating. Then it's 3/10 back to Mountain Goat in P3 on return to Sector 1. He unseats GDR, a 3-time champion here at Sector 1 Sim Racing. Wakey, P5 there, knocking on the door of GDR as well. He'll be upset about not getting that P4 spot away from him, and even P3 as well. He's nice and close to that as well. Lenosis P6 on his first race in Division 1, his Division 1 debut. Kaizen also on his Sector 1 debut here in P7. Captain Muffin P8. for CP Motorsports. We look to outside the top 8, Morgan Davey, P9, with a 46.394. Turtle Power, or as we used to know him, Hellraiser, P10, rounds out that top 10 with a 46.550. John 27 TCT, P11 with a 46.6148. Bath with a 46.740. And Diswood rounds out the grid. We are missing someone from our grid. I forget who. Someone is not present this evening because we only have 13 drivers. Now, the top 5 dipped into the 45s here. Lenosis was not quite able to. Having said that, I have seen Lenosis do it, so I know he's capable. So the second half of this field is not out of this fight for the race. That is absolutely for sure. What do you think of that qualifying Black Friday?
Well, Noodles and Jeesh came out swinging, didn't they? As you suggested, Mountain Goat got into the 3rd spot, where I thought Wakey was going to maybe be a spot or 2 up from where he was. That's a solid qualifying effort from Lenosis as well. Only 6/10 off the fastest qualifying lap, and that was our Div 2 champion from last season. So he's definitely showing he can hang out with the Div 1 boys.
Yeah, upper mid-pack. Really, really good start to his Div 1 campaign for Lenosis. And yeah, like you said, young Wakey, although, like I say, he was not far off that P3 there. So he definitely could have had it with, you know, half a tenth more would have been all it would have taken to get that. And I think you put your faith in the right place there. I think he was certainly capable, but just couldn't quite execute it as he needed. And just a good lap from Goat and GDR there as well. So before we crack into the race, let's move into our strategy guide. Once again, let's have a quick look. Remind you of what we're dealing with tonight. The racing soft tyres are what our drivers are using, and that is the only tyre available to them. The hot tip is the 1-stop is the way to go, but there is the opportunity for a 2-stop as well. We'll see if anybody tries to crack on with that, maybe to steal a fastest lap as well. Might be a possibility for these guys, but I think we are ready to get our guys racing for Division 1 for the first time in Season 8.
We've just pressed the button. We've got 10 seconds until racing begins.
All right. I am so excited by this one. I think it's going to be a hugely competitive race up and down the field. We've got 5 guys cracking into the 145s here in qualifying. See if they can do much of the same in the official race. The cars take to the grid. Noodles on pole position here at Lego Maggiore. The light board is ready to go. The revs are up. The drivers are staged and ready to go. 5 lights illuminated on the board. And they go out and away we go racing here. It's a good start from Noodles, and it looks like a decent start from the Brocky05 car of Goat there behind as well. We're going to look back from Noodles here as they head through turn 1. It looks like Jeesh has held on to P2, but they're 2x2 in the background there. Young Wakey on the outside of GDR there, and he's got through as well. Well done to Young Wakey there. Makes it through to P4 and settles in. So, Noodles away well. GDR has dropped one. He's now just ahead of Lenosis. They're 2x2 in the background as well. Kaizen battling with Muffin. They're going to be 3 wide as they come into the sweeping right-hander. Muffin on the inside, and there's a Deeds car going for a move there as well, looking to get in and amongst it. There's still 3 wide. This is unbelievable stuff. I can't believe what I'm watching here as Muffin gets swamped by 3 cars. This Wood and Morgan Davies side by side through the S's. This is not something you expect to see. And GDR has gone off the track at the S's. That's unbelievable for the 3-time champion. And he's going to drop way, way down off the back of that incident. We'll definitely have to have a look at a replay of that one. But this battle is as hot as ever here in the early stages. To the inside goes the Brocky05 Sim Racing car. On the inside of Morgan Davey at NASCAR. Wheel to wheel on exit. There might have been a little bit of contact there, but it looks like Morgan Davey has held on to the position. And back goes through on Muffin here.
Yeah, definitely 2 big losers out of that start. GTR and Kaizen, they're both to the last 2 places in the field.
Wow. That was an unbelievable first lap. It seems to have finally settled down now, although I'm sure these guys won't feel that way in the cockpit. But what a start to the race that was. Let's check in with our leaders now. Goat right on the back of Geesh here, and young Wakey right behind him as well. That first pack looking very, very strong here. All the way back to Lenosis, the top 5. No GDR, of course. I think we've got an incident back here as well. I just heard some tyre squeal on the way through. May have been mistaken.
Yeah, Diswood got a little bit unsettled by another car. Didn't see who it was, but he's also picked up a half-second penalty.
Wow, Woody, the race goes from bad to worse. He's fighting with Kaizen now for P10. They've got that Sim Racing car of Turtle Power behind. And there behind is GDR as well. Not too far behind these guys. He's still with the pack. So he can certainly fight this back, but he will not be happy about where this race is right now. Let's have a look at what happened to our 3-time champion here. Into the S's he goes. Was there contact? It doesn't look like it. Just a little bit loose on the curb. And to the right of the track you go. Damage to the right front corner. And with the way the field is bunched up at that stage in the race, you're naturally just going to drop all the way to last place. And there he goes, up to P11 already as Diswood serves his penalty. Goes past. That's 3 cars in 1. How has he done that? We're going to have to watch a replay of that too. I don't know how that's happened at all. But GDR has just gone from 13th to 10th in the matter of a couple of corners.
And while we were watching that replay, Wakey served a half-second penalty, which has brought John and Morgan Davey right on back of him. So
Oh, so he's dropped off that front pack.
Yeah, Morgan Davies all the way back to 7th. We've got Lenosius up to 4th now.
Good strong from Morgan Davies. Definitely having a good race here so far. Don just in front of him. Young Wakey probably feeling the pressure a little bit. So that half-second would have been track limits, presumably. Possibly at the S's. Not really something we've seen too much in the Division 3 race. Clearly these guys pushing the limit a little bit harder because we've seen a couple of track limit penalties so far this race. I want to check in with Goat and see how he's doing up the front. He's still in touch with the leaders. Geesh still following Noodles for now. Noodles leading the way, running a masterful race so far. Very, very solid. Things you love to see. 46.175 currently the fastest lap. We can expect that to change as the race goes on. I'm really struggling to figure out where to look here at the moment, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah,
jump on board with
going on.
Muffin, I think. Muffin's got a great view of the action. I don't think anyone's going to make a move here into NASCAR though, so what I want to do here is have a quick look at the replay of GDR's move on the drivers in front of him on the way out of the S's. There they were 3 wide out the S's. That's how he did it. Look at that, and then Woody serves his penalty, so he's already passed those 2 cars. We didn't quite see it, and then down the inside of the ISA Esports car, and through he goes. Very, very well done there. Textbook from GDR, and things you love to see from him. He's purple as well, so he's definitely not slowing down.
Seems like everyone's kind of settled into their rhythms now. No real fighting going on, but then again, got a question who's trying to save fuel in the slipstream. Oh, and Lenosius picks up a half-second penalty as well.
They're coming in thick and fast, but he'll drop back potentially towards where young Wakey is as well. Get caught up in this battle for the mid-pack. The battle for the mid-pack is huge, by the way. This train of cars goes all the way back to P10, I think. So you got to be careful you don't get swallowed by that, otherwise you might be in a spot of bother. So Lenosis will serve that penalty on the back straight out of the S's. And it'll be interesting to see how far back he drops. Probably about a second or so for a half-second penalty. Because you do lose time all the way down the straight once you've slowed down. Now that we've got the penalty gates, of course, in lobby mode, unlike back on GT Sport when we had to serve the penalties manually. We're able to serve them at the same time here on GT7. See the gap come down to Lenosis here as he served that penalty. See it drop to about 2 seconds. Will it come down any further? Down to about 1.5. Not quite enough for Wakey to get back in touch, but it has dropped Lenosis off the leaders. So now the podium is on its own. Mountain Goat chases Geesh, chases Noodles. Separated from the rest of the pack.
But we must have also had something happen to Kaizen because he is now in last place, 10 seconds behind Woody. So something must have happened there.
Definitely the butt of an incident somewhere along the lines. Even with Woody, he's not too far off Turtle Power there. His teammate, I think, is... no, sorry. Turtle Power's driving for Bacchus or Dadson Racing. Kind of on his own at the moment. Not too many people either side of them. Have a look at GDR, see what he's doing. He's clocked the fastest lap of the race so far with a 46.024. So he is the fastest man on track right now. But he's got to be careful he doesn't burn through his tyres too hard. He's going to want to remain as part of this fight. I don't imagine he can sneak himself back onto the podium barring a massive error from the leaders. But stranger things have happened in motorsport, and this is GDR that we're talking about, a 3-time champion here at Sector 1 Sim Racing, and he is showing no signs of slowing down here. Muffin in his sights now. CP Motorsports car, bright gold in the distance, 1.5 seconds up the road. No dirty air for GDR as of yet. He'll fly through the S's here, hopefully with a bit of confidence now, given that he did have his first incident through there. He does pick up a couple of tenths on the drivers in front of him. Down towards NASCAR, he will go. A bit of a slipstream from Muffin in front on Fat. Let's see if he goes for a move. No, not close enough. Means that GDR might drop back a little bit. Maybe, hopefully get an exit that's better out of that corner. And he does drive up the hill. He is gaining fairly quickly on the drivers in front. But once he catches that train, he's going to have to sift through it fairly effectively. Otherwise, he's going to be left behind by the leaders. And we all know that when you battle side by side with a driver in Gran Turismo 7, you lose a heck of a load of time. So you cannot afford to do it unnecessarily. Definitely want to be methodical with your overtakes. And I think GTR has the aggression to match that. And the conviction required to make a move and make it stick first time of asking. Let's see what he does here. Get through this sequence of corners with minimal dirty air flying over the car. Once it comes out of the right-hander up ahead, we'll see just how close he is to Muffin in front. Currently 8 tenths. If he can get a bit closer on the way out. Muffin a little bit wide there. Potentially a mistake. Might pick up a half-second penalty for his troubles. No such luck for GDR. But he's close to Fat, and that might hurt him a little bit. We're back with GDR right on board through the S's, this time with dirty air. See how he handles it. Not too bad this time around. Stays close to Muffin, but not gaining time on the straight as of yet. Having a little bit of a hard time in the dirty air, it seems, is GDR. Perhaps pushing a little bit too hard. Further up, top 2. Starting to build a little bit of a gap to go. 8 tenths now, the gap, but he's still in range. And I have seen Goat in the past be very, very strong at the end of a stint. So do not count him out just yet. Box of beauty on the side of the car.
Touch for these top 2.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's not out of this yet, and surprisingly as well, I was kind of expecting Lenosis and Young Wakey to drop off these guys once they were out of slipstream, but they are staying, just about 2 seconds behind as well. So if these guys make any major mistakes, they're going to be, at the mercy of that 4th and 5th position. They've got to be careful. How are we looking right now in terms of tyres for these guys? Do you think that anyone has a particular advantage over anyone else?
So everyone's looking very similar on their tyres. I'll give you the best and the worst. So at the moment, worst off is probably GTR. His front left, his left side tyres are looking a bit worse for wear than everyone else. And then the best one on tyres at the moment would have to be Kaizen at the back. And then
really?
As far as fuel's concerned, Everyone's very similar. Young Wakey's doing a bit better on fuel. Probably FAF and Young Wakey are about equal on fuel, and they're probably the two have the best fuel. And then, yeah, Lenocious is probably the worst one on fuel. Morgan Davey and Lenocious are the two worst ones in fuel, but there's not much in it.
Well, I have to say, it comes as no surprise that a Deeds car is one of the worst cars on fuel, and we all know when it comes to Morgan Davey as well, he's the sort of guy that likes to go hell for leather 100% of the time. He's got immense stamina and a really, really good ability to drive the car at 10 tenths consistently and for a long, long time. So that's probably part of the reason why his fuel load's so low, and it's not a surprise to see that. It's always part of his strategy. So not a huge surprise to see. But it may come back to bite him in the pit stops a little bit later on. So hopefully he's not down by too much on these guys. So still in that mid-pack. John, who's flown under the radar a little bit this race, he's dropped off Young Wakey a little bit. He was in touch a little while ago. And he's just maintaining that gap to Morgan Davey just behind. That'll be what he's thinking about right now. Maybe a little bit of tyre management, fuel management. Try and make sure that he's in a good spot in the pit stop.
Young Wakey is definitely slowly catching up to Lenocious as well.
So, that tyre advantage. It was Young Wakey who had good tyres, wasn't it?
Kaisen's got the best tyres, but Young Wakey's tyres are... Actually, they're a little bit worse than Lenocious ahead of him.
Your tyre and fuel update brought to you by APR Automotive. As we discussed a little bit earlier, based in Tasmania. Automotive shop. Covers all your bases. And even has a few toes in the motorsport industry as well. So, how are we looking between the two leaders, or the three leaders? Three podium sitters. Who's in sort of the best shape between them?
I reckon Noodles is in the best shape between them. Tyre wear between the three is pretty even, but Noodles has probably saved about 5 litres more fuel so far.
Wow. The 5 litres equates to about a second of pit stop time. So, because our refuel rate is 5 litres per second, but it's almost doubled when you take into account that if he's saved 5 litres, then he can afford to put in 5 litres less as well. So you double that amount, and suddenly he's 2 seconds up the road at the end of the pit stop. So Gisha's going to have to think about this and figure out what he's doing. I'm sure that these guys are communicating during the race, having a bit of a conversation with each other. Mountain Goat has dropped out of the slipstream range, but he's not out of touch just yet. And he can afford to push a little bit harder now that he's out of the range of the dirty air. Kind of seeing everyone sort of settled into positions now. Makey, one of the people we want to keep an eye on. Strong on the tyres. Still in a decent spot as well. Is he looking stronger than Lenocious when it comes to tyres right now?
Lenocious is better on the tyres, but Young Wakey's slightly better on his fuel.
Alright, so Wakey may jump him in the pits, but Lenocious is probably going to continue to pull away in the late stages of this stint. We're now on lap 9, about to come on to lap 10, so the pit window for first stint just about been and gone. So we're probably looking at a one stop for these guys around lap 13. John in P6 ahead of Morgan Davey.
We've got GTR kind of up close to Captain Muffin, gaining a few tenths last lap.
Got a fat as well, isn't it?
Yes, he's GTR sitting in 9th. So he's ahead of Faf, who's in 10th.
He's having a bit of a hard time with Muffin up ahead. He's been not too far away from him for a few laps now. Bit of a mistake up the road there from Morgan Davey as well. You saw him get a little bit taily on the way out of that corner, picking up the grass on the left rear corner, which may drop him back towards Muffin there. He's not going to have dirty tyres after that, but see what happens on the way down this back straight. GDR pushing the limits there again. And that slipstream will pull him down the straight here. Half a second the gap. He's not going to be close enough to go for a move. But it's all about the waiting game for GDR now. You can see P7, he can see P6 even, so he feels like there's still plenty of position to be gained. Now, if I'm GDR in this position, I get the feeling the best strategy here might be to pit at the end of lap 11 or even at the end of this lap. Get off those well-worn tyres that you put through the ringer and you get onto a fresh set, you undercut a few drivers and then you maintain those tyres to the end of the race. The undercut could be very powerful here, especially given that Muffin is possibly holding GDR up here, although he's very close to him. Might be able to send something into turn 1. Does he look to the inside? He sticks his nose out. He's gone for it. That's the conviction I was talking about with GDR. He knows what he wants, and when he wants it, round the outside of the hairpin there's a little bit of latency between him and Muffin. He's not able to make it happen, but Muffin knew the moment GDR stuck his nose out that the move was going to be attempted. It wasn't just a bluff from the Prima Hooncorp car in behind there, and now Muffin feels like he's on the back foot.
And just while that was happening, we just had Turtle with a couple of self-inflicted offs. He's now back at the back of the field.
Oh, so he's dropped behind Kaizen as well.
Yes, he has gone behind Kaizen. So Kaizen's now in not last.
He'll be happy about that. Do you think there was potentially any hint of an equipment failure for either of those guys?
I have read in the YouTube chat, Kaizen's dealing with sound issues from his game, and Turtle, I watched, I think it was just a grip issue at the moment. His rear tyres are fairly worn compared to the rest of the field.
I get the feeling that those offs will continue to affect him for a little while. Kaizen will be happy to be out of last place, and he might be looking towards 11th or even the top 10 in the late stages if he can pick up some time, because these guys don't seem to really have it on the go at the moment. Muffin's dropped off Morgan Davey here, which is potentially going to bring him into the clutches of GDR. Does GDR come in? No. Going to go for 12 laps. I'm really thinking that GDR needs to look at an undercut here. Muffin picks up some grass on the way into turn 1. That's not going to help his case. GDR gets nice and close once again.
I think the overcut could work well here too. Running a little bit longer on your worn tyres to have a lighter fuel load on fresh tyres when you come out later.
Now, I get the feeling that clean air is a premium around here, and could be exceptionally valuable. Might be a good shout. Someone else who might want to consider that. Second or third place, Geesh or Mountain Goat may want to think about an undercut at the end of this lap. See what they decide to do. Kind of just holding station at the moment, about a second between them. That's sort of the extent of the dirty air, which might be what's keeping Geesh and Mountain Goat at bay from each other. Geesh picks up some time through there, and a sniff of the slipstream as well. Up this hill in the back section of the circuit. And they come. Now, this is where the question mark is. They pit into lap 12. Do they pit into lap 13 at exactly the halfway point? What do you do here? If I'm Geesh, I'm thinking of an undercut here, I think. Does he come in? He does indeed. It looked like it could have been a cut of the lane lines too. He's got a bit of a fuel save over Mountain Goat. Lenosis and Young Wakey go around again. Now the other one I have a question mark over is GDR. GDR goes around again. Boxes opposite Muffin, so Muffin goes in end of 12. So now GDR's got to put a lap together that's going to put him ahead of the Muffin man.
He needs to be careful, GTR. Just looking at his tyres, he's got a slither of white on his left rear. Slightly better on the right rear, but yeah, I reckon if he goes 2 laps, he'll end up with a dead tyre. So he will definitely be in the end of this lap.
Forced in is GDR. Have to see what he does from here. Getting a little bit slidey, a little bit taily, a little bit Morgan Davey, I think, in terms of driving style. Something that the Deeds driver really likes.
We just had our first of the pit stoppers come out. Jeesh has got a 2-second lead over Mountain Goat at the moment.
He's managed to pick up a little bit of time. That would have been that fuel save that we were looking at. So he's gained about a second in the pit lane. Now, I saw on the way in, it looked like Jeesh crossed the pit lane line, but he does not have a 3-second penalty, which suggests that he did not. And it was just latency on our screen. Because remember, if you cross the white line on the way into pit lane, you will inherit a 3-second penalty. So you've got to be a little bit careful with that. Now, will Noodles come in this lap? That is the question.
Yes,
Jeesh's gap about 25 seconds, so about 24-second pit transit time. Noodles has the same amount of fuel on board that Mountain Goat had a lap ago, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy fuel save. I think he's going to come out miles ahead of these guys.
We've
And he's
also
going to be
got
in much
Wakey
better
with
shape.
5 litres. Wakey's got 5 litres more than Mauritius. So he'll either be right on the back of him or he'll jump him in this pit stop.
There goes Noodles. Not too far up the road, actually. He may have overfueled a little bit just to be safe, which he could afford to do. Young Wakey has gotten the better of Lenosis out of the pits by 3 seconds. Promotes himself up to P4. Lenosis hovering on the brink of the top 5 with a half-second penalty as well. John will be looking to make the most of that as this lap comes to a close.
Wakey's come out with a little bit less fuel than Lenosis. So that would be why he's jumped in a little bit more.
So, fuel save proving very, very strong around here. Jeesh is back within range of Noodles here. Nice slipstream down the back straight. See if these guys decide they want to race this out or just go for the top 2 finish. This is sort of the first bit of adversity we've seen Jeesh come up against in Division 1 in some time. Last season, he won almost every race. He broke the record for the most wins in a single season at Sector 1 Sim Racing. Although, hard to call it a legitimate record when there was 12 races in the campaign opposed to the usual 8, which we've gone back to this season. But nonetheless, he has won the most races in a single Sector 1 season, and that record will likely never be broken. But here he is in second place. Can he salvage a win from this position? That is the question. He's looking racy in the first part of this second stint, but we did hear before that Noodles was better in the late stages with the tyre wear, and Noodles has 1 lap fresher tyres as well. So, going to be interesting to watch for sure. Mountain Goat has dropped off the back. DDR has promoted himself to P8 ahead of Morgan Davey, who must have filled up massively in the fuel stop to drop himself back that far. And
So we had
Captain
a
Muffin
bit
just up
further
the road.
back. Yeah, a bit further back. So yeah, Captain Muffin I was going to talk about. He managed to put Morgan Davey between him and GTR, and it just slowed GTR down a little bit.
All right.
So yeah, he's got a second and a half back to GTR now. So whereas before the pit stop, they were within a few tenths of each other. That was a good move by Muffin to put the car between them.
Yeah, it shows the value of a good fuel save, which is something that neither GDR or Morgan Davey are interested in. Both sort of drivers that like to go full bore for an entire race hard, no quarter given. Here they are, P8, P9 at the moment, and I think GDR is going to look to chomp that time out of Muffin as this lap goes on. This race goes on. Laps drop in a 45 for a lap. We must be seeing a bit of fuel saving from the drivers out front, because I'm surprised not to have seen a 1:45 second lap as of yet. Clearly Noodles and Geesh more worried about the race result than the fastest lap time. But might pay for them to shoot for that and steal that away. With the benefit of the slipstream, they might be able to.
Yeah, I'm just going through and having a look at the fuel situation for some people. Wakey has a lot less fuel than everybody.
Young
got
Wakey's
close
under
to
fuel.
half the tank.
That would explain why he ended up so far ahead of Lenosis and John. In fact, I think Lenosis has been jumped by John as well. Indeed he has.
Yes, just happened, yeah.
That's down the inside for Lenosis. They're wheel to wheel through the right-hander. John's going to have the inside into the S's. Will Lenosis yield? He's going to have to. There it goes. So what sort of fuel number is everyone else running to? We're looking at 50% on board for Wakey. What sort of numbers is everyone else operating?
So you've got Turtle with about, let's say about 70% of his fuel there. Kaizen's got about 65%. Woody's got closer to 70%. FAF, he's running about 65% as well. So is Morgan Davey. GTR's probably about 55-60%. Captain Muffin, a few percent more than GTR. John's the exact same as Muffin, so is Lenocious. Wakey's just hit 50% now. You've got Goat on about 55-60%, the exact same as Geesh and Noodles as well.
Right, so Young Wakey might be fuel compromised here, which is interesting to me. He may be able to save it up towards the end, but he might lose time to the pack behind. We're on board now with Captain Muffin on the outside of John 27 TCT. Bring him back to the main screen. There he is. Muffin tried it, couldn't quite make it work,
GTR's
and there is
well
GDR.
now.
That was the opportunity he needed. Sweeps around the outside to the inside, not quite able to make it happen. It's a masterful defense from Muffin so far. That's two red hot cracks that GDR's had at Muffin, and GDR is off the track into the grass and drops behind Morgan Davey again. Got a little bit loose on the exit there, just getting a little bit trigger happy on the throttle over that little crest, a little bump on the exit of the right-hander at the top of the circuit, and put him in the grass, dropped himself way back, really on the back foot now. He's still got that fastest lap, but those positions were vital. Captain Muffin, he's now been set back from the two in front of him who were battling it out. That was a really big opportunity, I think, for GDR to make something happen, and he squandered it a little bit there with that off. You know, a crucial mistake at a time when it mattered most. But there's still just over 10 laps, or just under 10 laps to go in this race. Got time to make it back, but these guys are not going to make it easy for him, and Muffin really getting the elbows out on the defense here, and not rolling over for anyone, it seems. Let's see what Morgan Davey can make of it.
So a bit further up the field, we've just seen Noodles set 45, and straight away Mountain Goat gets in by 4/100ths of a second. So we've got a couple of cars setting 45s now.
So there goes GDR's easy, fastest lap. Gonna have to work for it if he wants it back. Ish with 2:46 flats back to back. And still within range of Noodles out front. These guys are just gonna have to kind of, as long as they're not too worried about who wins here, they can sort of just chill together until the end of the race and hold on to that 1 and 2 for the team ahead of Mountain Goat. For Brocky05 Sim Racing. The Gnosis of APR Motorsport as well. Sitting pretty in P5 at the moment, reminiscent of VF and Div 3. earlier tonight. It's been a great run so far for Lenosis. Very, very solid drive. He's got John 27 TCT knocking on the door behind him. Just kind of saying, hey, don't forget about me. If you make a mistake, you know what's going to happen, mate. So be careful. I think Lenosis is aware of that. Just running consistent laps. He's not working too hard to chase down young Wakey.
We also have Morgan Davey very close to Captain Muffin now. He's been hovering around 5/10 for about half a lap.
Know that if there's someone that fancies a move, more often than not, it's Morgan Davey. Really look for something on Captain Muffin into turn 1 here. Muffin a little bit wide on exit there, but a good run out. So not close enough for the Deeds entry. A stop and braking late though. See if he thinks about something a little bit further around the track. Looking racy is Morgan Davey, looking much more in control of the car than Muffin. Muffin looking a little bit wide here and there. Maybe feeling the pressure. Got to be careful with going wide in these cars, because if you're on the grass with the rear quarter and you're on the brakes, you're gonna just about go round, as we've seen happen a couple of times for these guys. Bit of a lift on the way out of the S's there. Looks like Muffin's going to get away from Morgan Davey this time around. We check our leaders. 1 second gap still stagnated between Jeesh and Noodles. Mountain Goat just hovering about 2 seconds back, not able to make inroads. Guys at the front just setting just too quick of a pace. Young Wakey's got 8 seconds either side, so he can definitely afford to dial the car back and save that fuel if needed. We talked about him being short fueled a little bit earlier. So I don't think he has any excuse if he runs out of fuel at the line. Especially,
I think Wakey's brought that fuel save the last few laps, because he's pretty much on par with Noodles and Jeesh for fuel now.
There you go. So clearly he knew what he was doing, and that track position has proven exceptionally valuable here, because the Gnosis has been under a fair bit of pressure for a while now from John in that Lightning Motorsport car. Go on board, see what he sees. APR Automotive car in the distance. Just out of reach, but dangling the carrot for John, giving him something to drive into. Drive towards. Want him driving into that car. Might end up a little bit messy. Through the S as we go. John drops off a little bit. Outside of slipstream range, the Gnosis has managed to escape the clutches for now. Gap between Morgan Davey and Muffin has extended as well, and now GDR is getting close to the Deeds car once again. But it seems to be that in the second half of the stint, GDR starts to struggle with that tyre wear, and it affects his ability to battle other cars, although I would expect to see much the same from Morgan Davey. Let's see what happens.
And just on the conversation of tyres, Captain Muffin's probably the one with the worst tyres at the moment. Morgan Davey and GTR both have quite better tyres than Muffin.
Oh, wow. Muffin, you've been outed. You are the worst on tyres in regards to the drivers around you, so no pressure. Morgan and GDR, you have the advantage on Captain Muffin ahead. See what you can do. Very slidey on exit there for Morgan Davies. Left, right, left for the counter steering there. See if that brings GDR a bit closer. A little bit of a wiggle for both of them on the way out there. John still trying to make inroads on Lenosis ahead. Top three still stagnated. Nothing really doing for them at the moment. We approach 5 laps to go. GDR really getting close here to Morgan Davey, and it might be that this is the opportunity he's been waiting for. Down towards NASCAR corner. No defensive move there from Morgan Davey. Looks like GDR was not interested in attempting anything there anyway. See if he gets a decent run up the hill. Deep in the slipstream now of Morgan Davey. GDR's got more toe than a Roman sandal on the way up towards Corner Capo. It's nice and close, but not trying anything just yet. Just putting the pressure on. Although I get the feeling that Morgan Davey is impervious to pressure. Doesn't affect him whatsoever. Come through the final corner. Down towards Tiramisu. Chicane at the end of the main straight. Look for another one. Has GDR, much like what he did on Captain Muffin earlier. A little bit of a tap of the rear quarter panel, but Morgan Davey manages to hold on to the position. GDR either not aggressive enough on the brakes or too ambitious with the move, not able to make it happen. Gonna have to try again.
Looking a bit further up the field, we've got John putting the pressure on Lenosis. That gap's now down to half a second. And then Noodles has stretched his legs a little bit. He's now got a 1.5 seconds over Jeesh.
I think Jeesh might have dropped off the pace a little bit in the last couple of laps because Mountain Goat's starting to close in on him a little bit as well here. With 1.5 the gap. Was hovering about 2 seconds, so constantly changing. Not by much, but they are changing. Gonna keep an eye on here. GDR very close to Morgan Davey here on the way to NASCAR. Looks to the inside. Morgan Davey does not defend, surprisingly. And he's forced out wide by GDR. And I don't think he's happy about that one. And it looks like a redress from GDR there. Lets him back through. And that's sportsmanship right there. See that clearly an error. A little bit too much, too ambitious on the throttle on the way out. Probably would have kept each other wheel to wheel for a period on the way out of that corner. Here goes GDR through again. Morgan on the back foot through the last sector. Flash of the hazard there from GDR. Guys got to be careful they don't let Faff too close because he is approaching. Now GDR can go in pursuit of Muffin. Run his own pace. Without having to deal with a car in front. Now 6 seconds behind Muffin.
And that gap between Jeesh and Goat is now stretched back out to 2 seconds.
Just keep chopping and changing. Looks like tyre wear might be coming into this a little bit. What do you reckon, Black Friday?
Yeah, so just having a look through the field, there is definitely a few that have great tyres compared to the rest. Yeah, Jeesh is suffering on his tyres compared to both Noodles and Goat. And then you've got the likes of, down the back, Turtle's got great tyres, but he is almost 5 seconds behind Kaizen. Yeah, FAF's got some good tyres on him too. Morgan Davies got tyres similar to FAF, which is better than Muffin and GTR ahead of them.
So Muffin not in a great spot, but he's in plenty of clean air, so I wouldn't consider him to be under threat. And the other battle on track is Lenosis versus John. Still managing to defend. John just can't quite get close enough. 3 laps to go for these guys.
Might be a problem with this track, the long sweeping corners just being in the slipstream in the dirty air.
Yeah, it looks like when you bring the margins as close as they are in Division 1, that dirty air becomes a bit more of a factor, because we didn't really see it affecting the guys too much in Division 3. But clearly, I get the feeling that because these guys are just that little bit more on a knife edge, that dirty air makes all the difference, and when you have to adapt to it, you end up with issues. So I'd say Geish's tyre wear is probably a result of being pushed wide at almost every corner by the dirty air from Noodles. Mountain Goat's kind of been sitting in his own air for a little while, so he's managed to retain some of that life in those tyres and might be able to launch something on Geish towards the end of the race. The gap now 1.2, come down significantly this lap.
I mean, if he is going to make a move, he's only got just over 2 laps to make that move too, so I'm not sure if he'll get there.
Got Morgan Davey on GDR to the outside around NASCAR. This time GDR holds up onto it down the inside. But being forced to defend means that he cannot go in pursuit of Captain Muffin, so 8th is going to be the best possible result for the Prima Hooncorp driver. A little bit sideways there as he tries to defend. Tyre wear clearly an issue. Morgan Davey pushing him hard, not giving him any quarter. Applying that pressure through every single curve in the track. Look at that. Down the main straight to the outside. EDR goes deeper on the brakes and he'll go into the right-hander on the inside. Morgan tries to cut in, can't quite do it. Sloppy gear change there, puts him on the back foot. John has dropped off the back of Lenosis once again. Young Wakey is falling back towards Lenosis a little bit. Lenosis seemingly picking up the pace in the late stages, perhaps. Just
Yeah,
a
it's
rough
that
lap.
extra fuel, I reckon, with Lenosis. He's able to keep using all the power of the car at the moment.
Young Wakey dropped a
Whereas
149 on the last lap, so I wonder if he had a mistake somewhere. Probably what did it to him. Mountain Goat, 1.3 from Geish. Needs to get very, very close if he wants any chance of that second place. I get the feeling Geish is just on damage control right now. Trying to hold on. Keep him out of that slipstream. 1 to go for these guys. Noodles leads the way. 2.5 seconds clear. It's been a perfect race for the Respawn driver. Pole position, and it's going to be potentially a lights to flag victory here at Maggiore in the Honda NSX Group 2 2008. Geish P2 and Mountain Goat trying his best get within range of the Season 7 champion. Young Wakey continues to drop back towards Lenosis rather. 2.5 seconds thereabouts is the gap.
Young Wakey's got damage on him.
Just had another accident then, presumably. He looked slow through the turn 4. Must have hit a wall somewhere. Got to get his act together if he wants to hold on to this position. Lenosis P5 ahead of John by about 1.5 seconds. Muffin in no man's land. GDR has cleared Morgan Davey and got himself a bit of a buffer. Morgan Davey P9, Math P10, This Wood currently P11, Kaizen P12, and Turtle Power P13. These guys not too far away from each other. They did have issues in the early stages of the race. Let's rejoin our leader. Noodles returns to Sector 1 after 2 seasons away from the sport. He'll come through the final corner and take victory here in Division 1 on return for Respawn Esports, and it's a 1-2 for Respawn Esports with Geesh across the line second, and Mountain Goat on his return to Sector 1 takes third and rounds out the podium. Young Wakey will be fourth, and he's just managed to hold on to it from Lenosis with a couple of late mistakes. Everyone's happy with their results here. Lenosis weaving towards the line as well. John weaving as he comes to the line. Captain Muffin, apparently the first driver, not happy with his result. 7th and 8th for GDR. 9th for Morgan Davey, who's held off by GDR, the 3-time champion. Bath in 10th. This will be P11. Brocky05 Sim Racing. Turtle Power for Dadson in P12. Kaizen P13 on debut for APR Esports. Definitely room for improvement for these guys at the back. Couple of incidents that really hurt their races, but gonna have to really pull something out if they want to improve the later stages of the season. Now, that race was not full of action quite so much as Division 3 was this evening, but you could tell the quality was there with these guys. You know, you just look at the lap times, you look at the margins. Mountain Goat with the fastest lap, a 45.844, and Noodles almost had it as well with a 45.884. Geesh with a 46.060. GDR down there, also in the 45s in the race for a race lap. Very, very impressive. Young Wakey in P4. Lenosis P5, a great result for him and a good start to his Div 1 campaign. John in P6 for Lightning Motorsport. Captain Muffin P7. GDR P8. Be a very disappointed man in the Hooncorp car there in P8 after that early off, which really caused that race to go completely downhill for him. It was just a small mistake in the early stages that put him right to last place, and he was forced to fight his way back through the pack. And unfortunately came up against a very stubborn Captain Muffin and Morgan Davey. Get that done. Noodles displaying, you know, the quality of driver that he is. A dominant display there and a win that he'll remember potentially for a long time. Distinct Geesh in P2 wasn't able to hold on, and that's a surprise to many after his dominant display last season in Division 1. So he'll be wondering what's going on here and wondering what he can do about it, I think. Mountain Goat, an excellent result for him. A great return for Sector 1, and showing that he hasn't lost a speck of speed. And with age has come maturity, a solid drive, entirely mistake-free it seemed. Young Wakey, very similar. Couple of mistakes in the late stages that dropped him close to Lenosis, but not quite within range, but a good result for him regardless. Morgan Davey P9, Faf P10, rounds out the top 10. This would P11, he'll be disappointed with that. I'm sure he would have been aiming for a top 5. I think he wasn't feeling great at this combination. Turtle Power in P12 and Kaizen P13, those two with a couple of incidents that really hurt their races, and pace seemed to be there. You know, you look at Turtle Power's fastest lap of 46.2, pretty solid there and faster than the drivers in front of him, so clearly had some pace, but not able to convert it into a result. So the one remaining question for tonight's broadcast as we approach midnight here in New Zealand, 10 p.m. in Australia. Driver of the day for Division 1. What do we think? Black Friday, what are your thoughts, mate?
Oh, well, there's a few names you could throw out there. We had Lenosis, Division 1 debut to finish 5th. He had good pace all race. But I can't help but think Noodles will be my driver of the day. He qualified first. He never lost the lead. It was just an absolutely dominant race from him start to finish.
Was a good race from Noodles. I'm not a big fan of giving the winner of the race the driver of the day award, but I think that's sort certainly merited. There's a couple of nominations in the chat for GOAT as well. It's a solid race for him. I think Young Wakey is also very deserving of a driver of the day, so he's going to be my nomination in P4. He's showing us every time he races that he is the future of Sector 1, that he is going to be a champion one day. Here he is in P4, and you know, it was a very mature drive from him a long way through. He put himself in no man's land and just ran his own race in the second half with time either side, clear air all the way, and just put in consistent laps until the late stages where it fell apart a little bit, but the result was netted from that early performance, a good pit strategy. I think that he deserves a Driver of the Day nomination from me as well. But a couple in the chat. One for Womble, one for Noodles, one for Lenosis, one for Goat, another for Goat, several for Goat, one for John there as well. It was a solid race by John. He flew under the radar a little bit, but P6, a solid result. Most definitely. I think he qualified a bit further down than that as well. Lenosis says Driver of the Day, Lenosis. I think that counts if history is anything to go by. Yeah, a lot of good stuff from Goat there. So big congratulations to the podium in that race. That was definitely a display of excellent driving. That everyone could see how good the guys in this division are. Now, that is the end of our racing entertainment for the evening. Must thank you all for turning up, watching, and enjoying the content that we put forward for you guys. Make sure you like the broadcast if you haven't already. If you have enjoyed what you've been watching, subscribe to the channel if you are new, so that you see us go live every Sunday for the next 16 weeks. We've got a season of action-packed racing coming up for you guys. More of the same going forward. We're back at Maggiore again next week for Division 4 and Division 2. Our Group B drivers. Should be an excellent night of racing, much the same as tonight, and hopefully we'll get off to a better start this time. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you for your work this evening, Black Friday. I think it was a great debut in the box, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Look forward to being back later on in the season as well.
Great to have so many talented race directors on board this season at Sector 1. That is us signing off for now. We will see you again next week. Don't go too far because we are going to bring back more action for you. Congratulations to our drivers for the night. We'll see you all again next week.